Chapter 251. Hey girlie. She bumped her arm and raised her brows. Thank you for earlier. What's your name? Let's be friends. I'm Ying Luo. Why did she feel like she was a woman from a good family being teased? Auntie, we're not dating. She was straight. Ah. The girl Ying Luo was stunned. Zhu Yao took a few steps forward and cast an art to restore the formation on the pool to its original state. Then, she took out a high-grade substitute talisman and pulled the girl's hand. Let me borrow your hand. A white light flashed on her fingertip, instantly slicing open a bloody line on her hand. She then dripped a drop of blood onto the talisman. SSSS. The girl took a deep breath, but did not resist. Instead, she looked at her actions curiously. Zhu Yao threw the talisman into the pool, and it instantly activated. With a flash of red light, the talisman instantly turned into the girl's appearance. Just like before, she closed her eyes and laid on the surface of the pool. The chains that broke earlier seemed to have come to life, as they heavily coiled around the girl. She had long prepared this substitute talisman. Initially, she had planned to use it to deceive the girl when she woke up. Oh, the girl exclaimed. Looking at her actions, her eyes shone. Not bad. So you're actually this amazing? Oh right, just what's your cultivation level? Zhu Yao turned to look at her and was about to reply. However, she then patted on her shoulder and added with a prideful look. Oh right. I was a nascent soul practitioner in the past. However, because my soul has left my body for too long, I'm only at the foundation stage now. Demigod. Ah. My cultivation level is at the demigod stage. The girl lost her balance and knelt down with a thud. Girl, come here. Let's talk about life. Zhu Yao waved her hand towards her. However, the girl instantly cowered and looked at her with an awkward look. So, Sovereign, thank you for saving me. She politely bowed towards her. Enough, your avatar has already been exposed. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Wasn't it a little too late to talk about rules with her now? Pulling the girl to the side, she squatted down and activated her understanding big sister mode. I know you're the Ying Luo who sealed the devil. I just want to ask you, what are your plans for the future? I am a disciple of Forgotten God Palace, so naturally, I will return to the sect. The girl said with a matter-of-fact expression as she smiled. That place is my home after all. I have no objections if you wish to return to Forgotten God Palace, but you cannot use Ying Luo's identity. Why? She was confused. Sister. Zhu Yao patted on her shoulders and said with a heavy tone. It has already been more than 900 years. In the minds of the people of the world, you have long turned into a seal and perished together with the devil. Now that you've reappeared, what do you think others will think? The girl's eyes widened. But the demon seal didn't. I know the seal hasn't been removed. Zhu Yao looked at her. But will others believe it? The girl turned silent. She wasn't stupid, so naturally, she could understand what Zhu Yao was saying. You must know fear is a very terrifying thing. The girl was silent for a moment, before letting out a deep sigh. You're right, I indeed cannot return to my previous identity. Raising her head, she looked at the incarnation that looked exactly like her in the pool. Then, Sovereign, what do you think I should do? She was naturally able to guess that the reason why this sovereign did all of this was to help her conceal her identity. However, she did not understand why she wanted to help her. There's no need for you to doubt me. I naturally have my own reasons for doing this. Zhu Yao took out the fan she obtained in Illusory Realm Island. Opening the fan, she revealed the faintly floating devilish aura. You should recognize this, right? This is. Ying Luo was stunned. Wasn't this the mystic artifact used to seal the devil? Why was it in her hands? Zhu Yao turned her head and looked at her with a stern expression. If I were to say that I'm a god, would you believe me? She had long thought of an excuse. She was startled for a moment, and then, she suddenly widened her eyes. She sized Zhu Yao up with a look of disbelief, and could not help but reach out her hand to touch her forehead. Sovereign, are you sick? The hell? I'm being serious here. She slapped down her hand. Sovereign, my cultivation level is low, don't lie to me. A true god knows sealing arts. If you know them, Back then, why would I have to? Before she could even finish, Zhu Yao flipped her hand, and a golden mystic seal appeared in front of the fan. The fan, which was still flowing with devilish energy earlier, instantly dissipated all of the devilish energy. Even the black fan had instantly reverted back to white, turning back into a regular mystic artifact. Your esteemed mother, you really know how to. Ying Luo was completely stunned. Can't you remove the profanity when praising someone? I merely repaired and perfected the seal on this fan. Zhu Yao continued to fool her. I'll tell you the truth then. The reason why I'm helping you is completely to find those 5 mystic artifacts. I have a way to deal with this devil once and for all. As long as the devil is dealt with, you will be able to openly appear in front of everyone. She looked at the fan and then looked at Zhu Yao. After pondering for a long while, she gritted her teeth and patted on her shoulder. All right, big sis. This old lady will fight with you. Why did she feel as though she had established a gang? This must be her imagination. I will look for the mystic artifacts myself. You just have to be careful not to be discovered by others. The girl smiled. After all, this matter is related to me, so how can I let you go alone? No need to persuade me, no matter what, I have to do my part. Why did she feel as though she was being glued to an idiot? Zhu Yao stuck an invisibility talisman on the girl, and on the way, she went to Sword-Seeking Mountain to find some materials. Retrieving the metal spirit, she stopped the rampage of those spiritual swords. She then swaggered back to Forgotten God Palace, and plunged straight into the artifact refining room. After toiling for 3 days, she finally managed to refine a bracelet that could hide the girl's true appearance. Bringing her along, she immediately sprinted to the side of the pool. In the water was a girl who looked to be about 20 years old. She was no longer as breathtakingly beautiful as before, but she could still be considered delicate and pleasant. Her height was a little shorter than before as well. She looked all the way down, until her line of sight stopped at the chest that did not change in the slightest. Then, she suddenly raised her head and looked at Zhu Yao. Mama's egg, why did she feel so displeased? The moment she walked out of the artifact refining room, she bumped into the agitated Wen Yu. Old ancestor, you're back. We're about to leave. His face instantly sank. Old ancestor, the new batch of disciples is about to ascend the mountain. Why don't you take in a disciple to play with before leaving? What the hell was play with? Zhu Yao pulled Ying Luo, who was at the side, over as a shield. I have already taken in a disciple. Ah. Wen Yu was dumbfounded. He sized up Ying Luo for a moment. I'm called Ying. The girl who acted familiar took a step forward. Just as she was about to speak, Zhu Yao covered her mouth, and the words that were about to come out of her mouth instantly changed. Ying, old ancestor? Wen Yu looked back and forth between the two, and for a moment he did not understand the situation. That's right, she's called Ying. The corner of Wen Yu's lips twitched. Ying? What a strange name. Wen Yu. Zhu Yao patted on his shoulder, and said with a heavy tone. This disciple of mine is someone that I took great pains to choose. Her resources are so good that nothing can be said about it. In the future, when she advances into a demigod, there won't be any problems at all. Wen Yu's eyes instantly shone. I have decided to nurture her carefully. Old ancestor is right. He nodded repeatedly, his face filled with excitement. So the reason why old ancestor left the mountain the last time was to choose a disciple for our sect. I'm so touched. What should I do? You know as well that I was a wandering practitioner in the past, and this cultivation method is different from others. So in order to nurture a good disciple, I need to bring her out for some training. Zhu Yao continued to fool him. Wen Yu immediately took a step back and did not stop them. He wished that she could immediately leave, and then return with 2 demigods. Old ancestor, have a pleasant journey. This time, Zhu Yao was no longer in a hurry to leave, as she said with a troubled look. Matters like cultivation have always been difficult. Not a single one of them can be lacking in luck, aptitude, and luck. I believe we will definitely encounter many difficulties on this path. Furthermore, I was a wandering practitioner in the past, and as for my family background, I'm afraid it will be quite inconvenient. Can you give me a salary? Without saying another word, Wen Yu pulled out the storage pouch next to him and stuffed it into her hands. Old ancestor, you can just go. I will take care of everything in the sect. I'll leave it to you, Palace Master One. Her face was solemn. Amen. Wen Yu nodded heavily. Zhu Yao pulled the girling Luo and flew away on her flying sword. They headed west. As Zhu Yao flew on her flying sword, she pulled out a spiritual sword and handed it over. Take this. I practiced this while I was refining that bracelet of yours. Ying Luo was startled for a moment. As though she had regained her senses, she received it. Zhu Yao turned to look at her and nudged her. What's wrong? Why did she suddenly become quiet? She was really not used to it. Wen Yu, is he the palace master of Forgotten God Palace? She suddenly asked. Of course he is. Then, what about the former palace master? Isn't that obvious? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at her. Naturally, she's either ascended or she's dead. Dead. Ying Luo frowned. After a long while, she let out a deep sigh. So she's already dead. Zhu Yao was startled. Looking at her relieved look, she suddenly recalled that in the scenario, she seemed to be the younger sister of the Forgotten God Palace Master. Though it was said that relationships between deity practitioners had always been shallow, she was still a good young lady with a proper bloodline. When she finally woke up, her only kin had already passed away. It was understandable for her to sigh. Do you know where the next mystic artifact is? Zhu Yao changed the topic. She had only found out that it was in the west, but she was not clear of its exact location. The girl did not remain depressed for long before she recovered. If I'm not wrong, it should be in the Heavenly Feather Clan. Heavenly Feather Clan? What's that? The Heavenly Feather Clan lives within the barrier of the Western continent. It is rumored that their clan is the descendant of the divine beast, the phoenix. They are born with wings and are able to soar in the 9 heavens. The descendant of the phoenix? Why does everyone in this world have descendants? Is it really all right to act so recklessly? The Heavenly Feather Clan has always had a violent temper, and they don't get along with human practitioners. If we were to barge in like this, we will definitely be attacked by everyone. Why didn't you say so earlier? It's good to make some preparations. You didn't ask either. Can I send this idiot back to the sacred pond? We're here. She suddenly called out. A large piece of land suddenly appeared in the sky. With a single glance, they could not see the end of it, as though it was a floating city in the sky. They immediately stepped onto that piece of land. However, before they could even take a few steps, they were blocked by a transparent wall, and they were unable to advance any further. Zhu Yao walked back and forth a few times, yet, she was still unable to discern just what kind of formation this was. The two of them were at a loss for a moment. What should we do? If we forcefully break through, we will definitely be discovered. The girl pondered for a moment before suggesting. Why don't we directly use a defensive-type mystic artifact and fuse a layer of defensive formations onto this barrier? We can then use the gap created by the formation to directly charge in. You're saying, we should use the opportunity of fusing mystic artifacts to forcefully add a formation core to this barrier. The girl nodded. If it's just a defensive-type mystic artifact and not an offensive one, we won't be discovered. Good idea? Zhu Yao gave a thumbs up. But, I don't have a defensive-type mystic artifact. Didn't you take a storage pouch from Wen Yu earlier? Oh right, she had even forgotten about her salary. She hurriedly took out that pouch and began to fish out the items one by one. Spirit stones. I can't use this for now. Medicinal pellet. This can be used to save the girl's life. Mystic talisman, mid-grade mystic talisman. It's not very useful, so I'll give it to the girl as well. 4th rank flight mystic artifact, spiritual sword substandard. 5th rank defensive mystic artifact, Dudu. Zhu Yao, that Ying Luo. That Wen Yu's taste was a little heavy. Ku. The girl Ying Luo received that piece of bright red cloth, and said with a stern look. This shouldn't be his. Look, the symbol embroidered on this Dudu isn't the symbol of Forgotten God Palace. It definitely belongs to another female practitioner. Halfway through her explanation, she paused, and her expression turned even more awkward. Wasn't this even more serious, alright? If it wasn't him, then who could it be? A gift from another female practitioner? And it was snatched from someone else? How did they snatch such a personal garment? And what were they supposed to do about it? What should she do? The hole in her brain was too big, and she couldn't even stop it. She never expected that Wen Yu would still be so fashionable despite his age. Why don't we take a look at what else is inside? Zhu Yao said. Sure. The girl's eyes instantly shone, turning into a gossipy mode. The two of them flipped the storage pouch upside down with excited looks. Unfortunately, other than a few low-rank spiritual swords and a few sets of male mystic robes, there were no other unknown objects. Ha! The two of them sighed. What a pity. Let's use this then. Zhu Yao picked up the doo-doo and placed it at the side. Circulating her spiritual energy, she activated the defensive formation on it, and then guided the formation towards the barrier. A bright light flashed, and a human-sized circular figure suddenly appeared in the transparent barrier. Now, Zhu Yao shouted, as she charged in together with Ying Luo. A moment later, the barrier had already returned to normal. However, on the transparent barrier, there was an additional red doo-doo fluttering in the wind. Zhu Yao. Ying Luo. Chapter 252. Forgotten God Palace 50 kilometers away. Achoo. When you violently sneezed. Could it be that old granny of his who had passed away was thinking of him again? Ha, their fate was too shallow. In a blink of an eye, more than 100 years had passed. Fortunately, he still had one item of remembrance. Reaching out his hand to touch his side, he found nothing. His storage pouch seemed to be old ancestor, hurry and return. The continent in the sky was extremely huge. The two of them walked straight for 4 hours before they could faintly see human figures. No wait, they were bird figures. Every single person here had a pair of gigantic wings. Those wings were white, black, yellow and red. Every single one of them was different. Flying in the sky, they looked like gigantic birdmen. However, the moment they landed on the ground, those wings would disappear. To prevent themselves from being exposed, they could only continue walking. The deeper they went, the more birdmen there were. They could faintly see a city. That city was huge, and there was an endless stream of birdmen coming and going. It was extremely bustling. The moment they entered the city, the two of them split up and asked around. However, after asking for an entire afternoon, not a single birdman knew anything. Yu Yao, I think this place is a little too big. It seems like we won't be able to find it in a short while. Ying Luo panted a few times. Back then, when she was sealed, she had sensed that one of the mystic artifacts had fallen nearby. However, after so many years, she really couldn't pinpoint its exact location. It's too hard to find. Zhu Yao stopped at the city entrance. Girl, do you still remember what those 5 mystic artifacts looked like? Of course I remember. She was the one who personally sealed them. Then, was one of them a jade tablet? She nodded. That's right. How did you know? On that jade tablet were the 2 words Azure City engraved. Ying Luo was startled. You've seen it before. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She pointed at the city entrance. I didn't see it in the past, but I've seen it now. Above the city entrance, a completely pitch-black plaque hung high up. Black miasma surged within, and the 2 red words Azure City were extremely eye-catching on the jade tablet. Around the jade tablet, golden sealing runes could faintly be seen flashing. The second mystic artifact. Mama's egg, why were all the sealing mystic artifacts placed at such an eye-catching location? Wasn't this looking down on the intelligence of the people searching for them? What should we do? Ying Luo suppressed her voice. Evidently, this mystic artifact was used by the birdmen in this city as the city gate's nameplate. It seemed like this city was called Azure City. Why don't we just dig it out? If he dug it out in front of so many people, he would probably be beaten to death. Just as he was worrying about what to do, a loud sound suddenly rang out in the city, like the sound of a bugle horn. The deep and heavy voice instantly spread throughout the entire market. All of a sudden, all the birdmen scattered towards the market. Each of them had an anxious look on their faces as they hurriedly entered their houses. They even closed their doors and windows. After a short while, not many birdmen could be seen on the streets. Was that the sound of curfew? Zhu Yao raised her head and looked at the sky. It had indeed darkened. There's a way. Ying Luo winked at her. Aren't there still a few invisibility talismans in Wenju's storage pouch? We'll hide ourselves and go up the tower first. We'll make our move after they're gone. Is it reliable? Zhu Yao expressed her doubts. She patted her voluptuous chest. Don't worry, I'll handle it. Zhu Yao nodded. She first pulled Ying Luo to an empty alleyway and stuck on the invisibility talisman. They then returned to the city gates. Currently, not a single person could be seen on the streets, as every single household had lit up their candles. The two of them went up the tower together, and to their surprise, they realized that there was actually no one on duty. Just as Zhu Yao was about to fly on her flying sword to retrieve the mystic artifact, she was pulled by Ying Luo. Wait a minute. There's a formation on the wall. A row of pale yellow talismans floated above the city walls. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to notice it. This jade tablet cannot be taken out. You can only push it in. The wall was right inside. Where were they supposed to push it in? Zhu Yao carefully inspected the city walls. There's a door here. At the bottom right corner of the city walls, there was a wooden door. After pushing the door open, she realized that this city walls were a little different from the others. The city walls were extremely tall, and there was actually a space within the walls. It was like a mezzanine, and there was even a small staircase inside, which led straight to the top. And at the very top, there was actually a huge platform. Zhu Yao wondered what it was used for. In front of the platform was that mystic artifact. I finally found it. Hurry and retrieve it. Ying Luo anxiously urged. Are you certain that you can retrieve it? She felt that this matter was going a little too smoothly. Don't worry, it's all set. Zhu Yao took a step forward and lightly cast an art. That gigantic jade tablet slowly shrunk, turning into the size of a jade pendant, and flew into her palm. And on the city walls where the jade tablet was originally placed, a hole the size of half a person appeared. Through the hole, they could even see the densely packed birdmen below the city walls. And every single one of them were even carrying objects that looked like offerings. Zhu Yao. Ying Luo. The birdmen stared straight at the two of them. The two of them stared straight at the crowd. Complete silence. They stole the city tablet. Capture them. It was unknown who roared out, but in an instant, rows of birdmen flew up, pouncing towards them. Run. Grabbing onto Ying Luo, they madly flew in the direction they came from. The hell? What happened to the promised all set? Ying Luo explained awkwardly. I've only heard that the harpies have the custom of offering sacrifices at night. I never expected that it would be today. And here I was wondering why all the black people had disappeared for a day. A mistake, this is definitely a mistake. Your sister's a mistake. Can't you be a little more reliable? She was screwed over by this brat. She had an awkward look. Why the hell did she always meet pig-like teammates everywhere she went? Their human practitioners, kill them. When the birdmen chasing after them saw them flying on their swords, they grew even more furious. Flapping their wings with force, they instantly shot out several feathers. In a blink of an eye, some of those feathers turned into flames, some turned into icicles, and some even turned into sharp swords, attacking the two of them from all directions. Yu Yao behind. Ying Luo's face paled from fright. Zhu Yao circulated her spiritual energy, and with a wave of her hand, a cold wind swept towards the back. In an instant, the air was frozen inch by inch, and in an instant, all of the attacks behind them were frozen. Zhu Yao did not stop, and continued to circulate the spiritual sword beneath her feet. Just as they were about to reach the barrier they entered from, a bugle horn sounded from behind. The sound of a horn came from behind, and 5 or 6 birdmen suddenly appeared from the quiet forest in front of them, blocking their way. Capture those 2 human practitioners. One of them shouted out loudly, and pounced towards her. The hell? Zhu Yao dodged to the side, and had almost flung the girl Ying Luo behind her out. Sis. Big sis Yu Yao, take it easy. Zhu Yao turned to glare at her. Seeing that the other four were rushing over as well, she gritted her teeth and summoned a bolt of heavenly lightning. With a loud boom, it brushed past the four of them and struck down. In an instant, the faces of the 5 to 6 birdmen paled, as though they were frightened by this sudden bolt of heavenly lightning. Hurry and leave. Zhu Yao took the opportunity to fly all the way to the barrier. That little red doodoo was already passionately waving at them. Zhu Yao immediately flew down, circulated her spiritual energy, and channeled it into the doodoo's defensive mystic artifact. The 5 birdmen had already caught up to them. With a wave of their wings, yet another icicle shot towards the 2 of them. "Io! My buttocks!" Ying Luo, who was standing at the back, was struck in the center, and 2 icicles as thick as fingers appeared on her buttocks. "Don't care about your buttocks, hurry and leave." That doodoo had already been activated, and the exit had already appeared. Zhu Yao grabbed onto Ying Luo and hurriedly rolled out. She casually slammed her palm onto the ground, and in an instant, countless lightning bolts drilled out from the ground, forming a wall of lightning. Zhu Yao took the opportunity to fly on her sword, bringing along her piggish teammate whose buttocks were injured, and madly flew several hundred kilometers. "Io, it hurt so much." The girl cast a fire-type mystic art to melt the icicles, and then rubbed her buttocks as she wailed. "Is it that painful? Didn't she not even bleed?" She reached out her hand to check her pulse. "Huh." Ying Luo glanced at her with a sad expression. "Do you know how important a buttocks are to a woman? As the saying goes, women with big buttocks are the best at bearing children. If this important part of mine is injured, I might not be able to get married. You don't understand. What kind of twisted logic is this? And why don't I understand? This old lady here is a woman too, hey? You actually want to get married. Why the hell are you cultivating as a deity? Don't worry, this little bit of injury will not affect your female functions. Next month, you will still be able to have your period." "Period? What's that?" Her face was filled with curiosity. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. "Period? Oh." She suddenly came to a realization. A moment later, her face paled again, and she said with a nervous look, "Sovereign, but I have not had my period for several hundred years. Will this affect it?" What should she do if she wanted to kick her off the sword? In the end, the 2 of them still returned to Forgotten God Palace. They were not worried that the Heavenly Feather clan would chase after them. After all, this was the territory of human practitioners, and a mere plaque was not enough to cause a dispute. When you looked at the 2 travel-worn people a little dumbfoundedly. "Old ancestor, you too returned from your training so quickly? It had only been a day and a night, right?" Zhu Yao patted on his shoulders. "Life is just that unpredictable." When you still wanted to ask something, but Zhu Yao silently took out that doodoo and stuffed it back to him. What about private hobbies like this next time? Don't spread it around. If the other sects find out about it, it won't be good for your reputation." When you was instantly petrified. When he regained his senses, the master and disciple duo had already disappeared. "What private hobbies?" "No. Old ancestor, listen to my explanation. I'm so tired." The moment they entered, Ying Luo laid on the bed, looking as though she was half dead. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. "What the hell are you tired for? She was the one who fought and flew on the sword, hey? Oh right, hurry and keep that mystic artifact." She immediately sat up and picked up the storage pouch that Zhu Yao threw on the table. "Where's the jade tablet?" "Here." Zhu Yao handed it over. Ying Luo immediately stored it in. Just as she was about to tighten the string, the jade tablet suddenly fell out. She was startled, and then threw the jade tablet in again. In the next moment, the jade tablet fell out again. She threw it again, and it continued to fall. "What's going on?" Ying Luo reached into the pouch, and suddenly cried out. It's so hot. Yu Yao, what did you put inside?" Zhu Yao took over the pouch and looked at it. "You took the wrong one, it's not this." She immediately took out the metal spirit from the pouch. Tick, tick. The metal spirit cried out pitifully, and rolled around in her hands. Zhu Yao sighed, grabbed the other storage pouch, and threw it to Ying Luo. "Leave the jade tablet here. This fellow doesn't like to stay with other mystic artifacts. What's that? It looks pretty good. Luo curiously looked at her palm. Is it an egg? What kind of egg is that? Chick. The metal spirit let out a protest sound. Egg. Chick 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 chick. The metal spirit instantly grew anxious, as it jumped up and slammed towards her face. Luo could not dodge in time, and was smashed right into her face. Yo, you're pretty arrogant, aren't you? I'll cook you today. Luo pretended to grab it. The metal spirit's figure flashed, and in an instant, its entire body emitted out a golden light. Chick. In an instant, all of the mystic artifacts on their bodies flew out and floated in the air. Every single one of them were aimed at Luo with killing intent. Luo was instantly dumbfounded. Enough, enough. Zhu Yao hurriedly extinguished the fire, and placed the metal spirit back into the storage pouch. Those mystic artifacts landed on the ground. Don't provoke it, it has a bad temper. Wah. Luo patted on her chest, and simply could not believe her own eyes. Just what is this? Metal spirit. Metal spirit? She had a confused look. This chicken of yours sure is incredible. It can actually control mystic artifacts. I already said it's not a chicken. But control? Zhu Yao was startled. The metal spirit was formed from metal spiritual energy, and a large majority of mystic artifacts did indeed belong to the metal attribute. It was very normal for the metal spirit to be able to control them. In that case, if those 5 mystic artifacts were, I know how to find the remaining ones. Zhu Yao suddenly stood up. Luo, where are the remaining 3 mystic artifacts? One is in Point Formation Clan, one is in the ancient ruins where the devil appeared, and the last one is in Sword Seeking Peak. Sword Seeking Peak. Zhu Yao was startled. Is it that Sword Seeking Peak outside? Luo nodded. Zhu Yao felt joy in her heart. Taking out the metal spirit, she said seriously. Metal spirit, is there a mystic artifact with a devil sealed in Sword Seeking Peak? Chick. The rock in her palm tilted. Zhu Yao had no choice but to take out that jade tablet and fan. It's a mystic artifact with a similar aura as these two. Chick. It let out a long sound, as though it was pondering. A moment later, it rolled around. Chick chick chick. There is? Chick. Where is it? Can you bring me there to retrieve it? The metal spirit rubbed against her palm, and then, the entire rock once again began to emit out a golden light. Suddenly, it let out a long chick sound. Chick. That sound grew further and further away, as though it was summoning something. Before the two of them could even react, suddenly, 3 knocks sounded from the door. Knock knock knock. It was neither light nor heavy. Zhu Yao raised her hand and opened the door. A sword that was entirely black in color flew in, and obediently landed on the table. Chick. The metal spirit instantly let out a dissatisfied sound. That sword then flew back to the door. Using its hilt to push the open doors shut, it then flew back to the table. Chapter 253. This sword has gained sentience, right? Luo said. It should be the metal spirit that had gained sentience. Zhu Yao picked up the sword on the table, and inspected it carefully. Just like the other two, there was a surge of devilish energy, and there was even a talisman sealing it. 3 now. Mission completion rate. 3 of 5. The girl sighed. A hint of worry flashed past her face. Yu Yao, just what is the method you mentioned to get rid of the devil once and for all? Devil smiting inscription. Zhu Yao solemnly said. This is the one and only inscription art in this world that can exterminate devils. Exterminate? Luo was startled. Aren't devils undying and indestructible, and can only be sealed? Believe me. Zhu Yao patted on her shoulders. There are no absolutes in everything. This method will definitely work. She had personally tried it before. Luo was silent for a moment. In the end, she still sighed and said with a smile. All right then, since I've already boarded this pirate ship of yours, I have no choice but to trust you till the end. Pirate ship, was it too late to switch teammates? Where are we going next? Should we go to Point Formation Sect? She suddenly said with an excited expression. That place is rather close to Forgotten God Palace. And I've long heard that there's an elder in Point Formation clan. He's a rare handsome young master, and no matter if it's his character, cultivation, or looks, he's one of the best in the cultivation world. Zhu Yao glanced at the girl. You've fallen for him? Ying Luo blanked for a moment. A moment later, she scratched her head and chuckled. Ho ho, I have met him several times in the past, and I'm not really familiar with him either. You like him? She blushed. Did you know? He has 4 spiritual roots, yet he could form his gold core with his own strength. He's very impressive. You've fallen for him. Her face was as red as blood. I have pentaspirit veins. Although my cultivation speed is not bad, it's also because I have an ancient bloodline. He comprehended it all by himself. You like him? Ying Luo, that a few seconds later. Yes, I like him. She looked like she was ready to throw caution to the wind. I want to have sex with him every minute. What do you think? Tisk. Why didn't you say so earlier? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes. I have experience in this. Ying Luo's eyes shone. What experience? Is there even a need to say it? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes even more joyfully. What other experience could it be? Of course it was the experience of being strong. The experience of pouncing on his master so many times was not for nothing. Ying Luo's expression instantly straightened, as she said with utmost respect. I hope that Sovereign Yu Yao will not be stingy with your teachings. That's easy. Zhu Yao courteously waved her hand, poured herself a cup of tea, and casually asked. First tell me, what's that elder's name? Her face started to turn red again, as if she had instantly put away her natural masculine nature, and revealed a shy look. Her eyes shone as she said, his name is Ding Chuanxiao. Zhu Yao sprayed out a mouthful of tea all over her face. You NPCs, please choose your names properly. Zhu Yao asked Wen Yu about it, and found out that there was really someone called Ding Chuanxiao in Point Formation sect. However, he was no longer an elder of Point Formation sect, but a sect master. In the few hundred years when the girl Ying Luo was sealed, he had been doing pretty well. Not only did he form his nascent soul, his reputation in the cultivation world was also rather resounding. Even Wen Yu, an old man who had always harbored hatred towards other sects, was full of praises for him. Indeed, forming a nascent soul with 4 spirit veins was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. This sect master Ding was a model example of hard work. And under his leadership, Point Formation sect had already firmly planted its roots amongst the first-rate sections. Point Formation sect was proficient in formations, and belonged to a neutral sect. They would not participate in any sect's disputes, and because of this, many sects would invite people from Point Formation sect to participate in setting up formations and give them pointers. This was also how Point Formation sect got its name. It was rumored that the next inter-sect tournament would be held in Point Formation sect. Zhu Yao had initially wanted to find the 4th mystic artifact as soon as possible, but after hearing Wen Yu's words, she changed her mind. Point Formation sect's formations were profound, and if she were to barge in forcefully, there would definitely be the danger of exposing her identity. She did not mind, but the girl Ying Luo would be in trouble. She might as well wait until the inter-sect tournament, and while there were many people in each sect, she could sneak in. At that time, it would be easier for her to find the mystic artifact. Coincidentally, there were still about 5 years before the next inter-sect tournament, and she could use this opportunity to let the girl Ying Luo replenish her cultivation. In 5 years you must form your Azoth core. Ying Luo was shocked. 5 years, isn't that a little too short? You've already formed your Azoth core once. What's there to be afraid of? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes. It wasn't like she was cultivating from scratch, and her meridians had long reached the level of a nascent soul. Forget about 5 years, 3 years was more or less enough. Work hard. Didn't you fancy that guy with the surname Ding? The higher your cultivation, the greater your chances of success. That's true. She was instantly motivated, and began to meditate with her legs crossed. Zhu Yao informed Wen Yu, and released the news that she was going into closed-door training. After that, she sealed off the entire mountain peak, and placed down 5 spiritual energy guiding formations around the girling Luo. As long as she entered a meditative state, the spiritual energy on the mountain peak would be 10 times denser than usual. She wondered if it was because of the presence of the metal spirit, but the metal spiritual energy was especially dense. Actually, it was very easy for the girl to raise her cultivation. Because she had trained once before, she basically did not have any bottlenecks from the early stages of foundation to the paragon. The only thing she lacked was spiritual energy. With the replenishment of spiritual energy, she naturally raised her cultivation very quickly. In less than 3 years, she had already reached the paragon level. Next would be forming her Azoth core, and this would have to depend on the girl's own comprehension. On the 4th year of her closed-door training, Zhu Yao faintly sensed an abnormal movement in the spiritual energy. She was about to form her Azoth core. She once again strengthened the surrounding spiritual energy guiding formations, and even released the metal spirit, in order to maintain a sufficient amount of spiritual energy. Ying Luo's expression, however, grew even worse. Large droplets of sweat dripped down from her forehead, as though she was enduring an extremely great pain. Even her spiritual energy was a little chaotic. Zhu Yao stood guard at the side without moving. Initially, she thought that there would be no problems, but she saw her expression grow even worse. The spiritual energy was actually scattering even more violently, as though it would scatter the moment it entered her body. Her brows were deeply knitted together, and a hint of death aura could faintly be seen. What was going on? This was different from what was written in the script. "Girling Luo," she anxiously shouted out. This situation was evidently the result of her restless state of mind. Conceal your spiritual energy, focus your mind, and calm your heart. Focus on forming your Azoth core, and don't let your thoughts run wild. At such a crucial moment, what was she thinking about? Her situation, however, was worsening. Even the corner of her lips was leaking out traces of blood, and the spiritual energy in her body was already in a mess. The hell? She was here to save her, not to end her prematurely. Taking a deep breath, Zhu Yao could no longer care about the backlash. She immediately materialized a strand of divine sense, and forcefully entered her meridians. She guided the chaotic spiritual energy to circulate. Then, she casually entered the place where she was forming her Azoth core, only to realize that the spiritual energy there was even more chaotic. The moment she entered, as though the chaotic spiritual energy had found its target, it began to wildly attack her divine sense. Zhu Yao was about to puke blood from the pain, yet she had no choice but to grit her teeth and persevere. If this girl was going to die, then she would have come here for nothing. Gritting her teeth, she used all of her strength to control the chaotic spiritual energy. Then, following the method of forming her Azoth core, she guided the spiritual energy to revolve in a single direction, forming a whirlpool. In the beginning, it was extremely difficult. Because it was not her own body, she was basically unable to control the spiritual energy, and the backlash became even more severe. After circulating it a few times with great difficulty, it slowly became orderly, and she no longer needed to forcefully guide it. And at the center of the spiritual energy, there was already a faint 5-colored dot, and it was slowly solidifying and growing bigger. Only then did Zhu Yao retract her divine sense, but she puked out a mouthful of blood. Earlier, she did not feel much pain, but now that she had retracted it, the pain instantly spread throughout her entire body, and she felt as though her soul was being bitten a few times. She had no choice but to close her eyes, take a deep breath, and meditate. Circulating spiritual energy, she slowly nurtured her divine sense. It was too goddamn painful. She felt as though she had died once. It was even more painful than when she was a demigod back then. After meditating for an entire day, Zhu Yao was finally able to catch her breath. At the side, Ying Luo had coincidentally completed her Azoth core as well, and she opened her eyes. She turned to look at her, and as though she was stunned for a moment, her eyes sank, and there seemed to be tears flashing within. "Yu Yao, thank you." Zhu Yao waved her hand. "It's good that you're fine. Seriously, even forming your Azoth core doesn't make me feel at ease. Why did you suddenly get distracted?" Her expression changed, and a moment later she said seriously, It won't happen again. There's still a next time? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at her. Do you think anyone can form their Azoth core twice like you? Of course she was an exception. That's true. She grinned, and then manly slapped her. I'm not that unlucky. After being slapped by her, Zhu Yao opened her mouth and puked out another mouthful of blood. Take note of the handicapped, hey. I'm sorry. She repeatedly apologized. Her face was filled with guilt. Never mind. That blood was something she wanted to puke out in the first place. Are you certain that you have formed your Azoth core? Of course. She nodded. I'm completely fine now. That's good. I want to stay away from you. Zhu Yao crawled away. Wait a minute. Ying Luo dragged her back. You're already injured. Where are you going? You should hurry and meditate to recuperate. I can't sit here. Why? Because, boom, a bolt of Azoth core tribulation lightning struck down from above Ying Luo's head. However, at the instant it was about to land on the ground, it made a turn and landed on the person next to her. Zhu Yao, who was struck black at the side. Puffing out a mouthful of black smoke, she looked at Ying Luo with dead fish eyes. This is the reason. Ying Luo. That immediately after, the second bolt of tribulation lightning struck down with a loud boom. Just as it was about to strike Zhu Yao, she raised her head and glared at it. Are you done yet? Creak. The tribulation lightning stopped in midair. It could not go up, nor could it go down. It had really gotten addicted to striking her, right? Just who's going to form her Azoth core? That bolt of tribulation lightning seemed to be extremely conflicted. It creaked and twisted above Ying Luo's head, then creaked and twisted above Zhu Yao's head. It spun back and forth a few times, as though it was dancing. A moment later, as though it had finally found a compromise, it suddenly turned into a thin streak of light that could not be seen clearly. Then it spat on her face. And then, it disappeared with satisfaction. The subsequent bolts of tribulation lightning struck like cannons. Only after a total of 81 bolts did it calm down. Zhu Yao. This tribulation lightning definitely has a grudge against me. It won't let me go even after this. Ying Luo. So this is the lightning spirit vein? How mystical. The girl Ying Luo had formed her Azoth core, but the one being struck was still her. There were still 365 days until the next intersect tournament. Zhu Yao used this time to help her improve a few of her arts and strengthen her sword arts. Regretfully, the girl did not comprehend sword intent. Thinking about it, things like sword intent depended on luck as well. Back then, she only comprehended it when she was on the verge of death. Of course, just in case, Zhu Yao taught her a few sealing arts as well. Forcefully activating the seal with spiritual energy will bring great harm to your body. Unless absolutely necessary, do not use it lightly. I understand, girl. Ying Luo patted on her chest. Oh right, is the devil smiting inscription the same? The devil smiting inscription is different from others. Zhu Yao explained with a sunken voice. Even a god can only use this seal once in their entire lives. If we were to use it, we'll be done for. It's that amazing. Ying Luo was startled for a moment before nodding. Don't worry about me. Why was she even more worried now? A year later, the intersect tournament. Ying Luo, this is Point Formation Clan. That's right, the mountain behind Point Formation Clan. You know where the mystic artifacts are? I don't, but most mystic artifacts are kept in the spiritual artifact warehouse. Then what about the spiritual artifact warehouse? I say, girl Yu Yao, as a mighty first-rate deity sect, there are naturally countless mystic artifacts and treasures. How can it be that easy to find them? You have to be patient. I do have patience, but can you explain to me? What does finding mystic artifacts have to do with lying here and peeking at other people bathing? The corner of Ying Luo's lips twitched, a hint of awkwardness flashed past her eyes. She chuckled and said, Girl Yu Yao, I'm just passing by. It's great to have a feast for my eyes. Zhu Yao glanced at her, and then pointed in the opposite direction. But the spiritual artifact warehouse that we asked about is over there. Her expression stiffened, and she waved her hand. Don't mind such details. It's hard to not mind, all right? The hell, This old lady here has been squatting next to this bathtub for an hour. You didn't even plan on finding mystic artifacts in the first place, and you're purely here to peek at other people bathing, right? I'm leaving. If you want a pervert, go ahead. Please don't trample on my pride as a pure girl. Ah, don't. If you leave, I will definitely be discovered. Just treat it as helping me out, girl Yu Yao, big sis Yu Yao, sovereign Yu Yao, Aunt Yu Yao. Your sister's aunt. She definitely can't tolerate this. Zhu Yao walked faster and faster. Yu Yao. The girl was still struggling, when she suddenly blanked. As someone's here. She didn't want to look. Yeah, he's taking off his clothes. Humph. She wasn't interested in a man's body at all. Yeah, he's even taking off his pants. Humph. Where? How's his figure? Does he have an 8-pack? Zhu Yao returned like a gust of wind, and squatted next to Ying Luo. Chapter 254. Ying Luo chuckled, and pointed at the pond in front of them. Sure enough, a man had appeared over there. His back was facing the two of them, and his shirt had been taken off, revealing a large portion of his bronze-colored skin. He was quite tall, and his upper body formed a perfect inverted triangle. He seemed to be undoing his pants, and after a while, he pulled out a belt. Clearly hearing Ying Luo suck in a cold breath, the corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She silently passed a handkerchief over. Wipe off the nosebleed. Oh. Ying Luo mechanically received it, however. She wiped off the blood on her face. Did it have to be so exaggerated? Wasn't he still wearing his underwear? Zhu Yao shook her head, and looked at that figure a little disdainfully. I'm not as tall as Master. His skin wasn't as white as his master's. His muscles weren't as sturdy as his master's. Substandard product appraisal complete. A large part of her curiosity from earlier had already disappeared, though Ying Luo's breathing grew more and more hurried, and her face looked like an infatuated fool. The hell, are you even drooling now? In any case, you're a goddess-like girl. Don't walk the strange, idiotic path. He's the man you fancy? A thought flashed in Zhu Yao's mind as she asked. Ying Luo was startled for a moment. Only when that man, whose back was facing them, had already submerged into the pool, and only his head was left, did he turn his head back, and gave her an embarrassed chuckle. Damn, it really is that NPC called Ding Chuanxiu. Isn't he the head of Point Formation sect? Why are you here instead of greeting the other sects? It's time for lunch break. Ying Luo said with a serious look. The spiritual energy in this spring is abundant. Every afternoon he would come to this mountain spring and soak for 2 hours. How did you know? Zhu Yao sized her up for a moment. Tell me honestly, just how long have you been lying here and secretly peeping at me? Ying Luo's expression stiffened, and a moment later she replied. Ho, matters like this aren't important anymore. How is it not important? Actually, it hasn't been that long. Her face flushed red as she stammered. It's only been since he joined Point Formation sect. Fuck, it's been a few hundred years since then, right? How dare you say that not too long ago? You're obviously not a fool, you're committing a crime. Then why don't you just chase after him? Zhu Yao rolled her eyes at her. She was the palace mistress of Forgotten God Palace in the past, and her position was second only to the palace master. Furthermore, she had a face like that. Any rational man would find it hard to reject her, right? Ying Luo scratched her head. In the past, his cultivation level was low. I was afraid that it would affect his reputation, and now even more so. She didn't want others to say that he relied on a woman to get to where he was, right? Zhu Yao pouted. She did not really understand the thought processes of these people. In her opinion, matters of the heart were very simple. If you like someone, then you like him. Was the opinion of others that important? It's not like I've spent it with someone else. If the other half really valued something as illusory as reputation more than feelings, then it could only prove that she was blind. Next time, it would be better if she could see clearly. Why did he have to cower and torment himself? My girl Yu Yao, I just want to look at him from afar. Just treat it as helping me out. Ying Luo patted on her shoulder, and said with a heroic look. At most, if you like any man in the future, I'll help you peek at him as well. Scram. Zhu Yao could not hold it in any longer, as she sent a kick over. This old lady's man doesn't need you to accompany me to look at him. She has already eaten him up, all right? Aya. Ying Luo lost her balance and her figure tilted. Adding that she had squatted for too long, her legs were a little numb. Unable to react in time, her feet slipped, and with a splash, she fell head first into the pool, causing a huge splash. With such a loud sound, no matter how powerful their aura-concealing talismans were, they would definitely be exposed. As expected, a clear male voice sounded from the other side. Who? Zhu Yao reached out her hand, wanting to pull the girl and flee. However, the girl who was still struggling in the water earlier upon hearing the question, was so frightened that she suddenly stood up and loudly said, "We didn't peek at you bathing. Zhu Yao, da ding chuanqiu, da ding luo. That I wonder if it's too late to pretend that I don't know her now?" A violent gust of wind blew, and in an instant, several wind blades attacked the two of them. Zhu Yao immediately waved her hand, materializing a defensive barrier. Then, she swiftly lifted the girl Ying Luo who was in the water up. The wind blade struck the surface of the water, causing a huge splash, which was blocked by the barrier in time. "Who are you people?" The voice from earlier once again sounded. From the direction of the splash, a man dressed in black robes, who was clearly neatly dressed, was currently walking over. Ying Luo stiffened for a moment. In an instant, with a swoosh, she hid behind Zhu Yao's back like a mouse. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. "You coward!" The splash of water fell, revealing the true appearance of the man who had his back facing them the entire time. Zhu Yao, however, was startled. She fiercely widened her eyes and looked straight at him. "The hell? Which sect are you people from?" The man looked at them. She did not know if it was her imagination, but a hint of shock actually leaked out from the depths of his eyes. A moment later, he said, "I wonder why the two of you have come to the back mountain of my Point Formation clan?" Zhu Yao did not speak, and simply stared at his face without blinking. Ding Chuanqiu could not help but frown a little unhappily. Probably because Ying Luo had sensed Zhu Yao's abnormality, she nudged her from the back. Seeing that Zhu Yao still had no reaction, she anxiously decided to confess. We didn't mean to steal. We're disciples of Forgotten God Palace, and we lost our way." Zhu Yao suddenly reacted, and began to lie through her teeth. Before she came here, she had long changed her appearance, and concealed her cultivation level. In the eyes of others, they were merely two Azoth core disciples. After walking for a while, we ended up here. We have disturbed Sect Master Ding. I hope Senior can forgive us. Ding Chuanqiu once again looked at the two of them. A moment later, a hint of a courteous smile surfaced on his face, as though he had accepted their explanation. "So you're disciples of Forgotten God Palace. Speaking of which, Forgotten God Palace and I can be considered to have a rather deep relationship. The previous palace master of your esteemed sect and I. What a pity." His eyes suddenly turned blank, as though he had recalled something, and he sighed. Zhu Yao clearly felt the girl's hand, which was grabbing onto her clothes, tighten for a moment. "Since the two of you don't recognize the terrain of this mountain, then follow me." As he said that, he turned around and made an inviting gesture, before leading the way at the front. His black robe still carried a little warmth, and there were still droplets of water dripping from his hair. Yet he looked indescribably warm and gentle. However, Ying Luo could no longer hold it in, as she sent a voice transmission to Zhu Yao, crazily spamming the screen in her mind. "My girl Yu Yao, he remembers me. He actually remembers me as well." "Shut up." Zhu Yao turned to glare at her, and casually cast an art on her to dry this scalding chicken. Only then did she pull her and follow after the person in front of her. Looking at Ying Luo's infatuated expression, for no reason, a wave of anger began to rise in her heart. That Ding Chuanqiu led them to the front hall, pointed to the place where the disciples of the various sects and clans were staying for the tournament held by Forgotten God Palace this time. And then he bid his farewell. He did not mention a single word about the two of them being rude, and peeping on him earlier, looking like a gentleman. Ying Luo's eyes looked at him the entire time, and even when he disappeared, the redness on her face did not fade. In the end, Zhu Yao could no longer hold it in. Taking a step forward, she pressed onto her shoulders and pulled her back. Luo, if I tell you to give up on this thought, forget about him, and stay far away from him, will you listen? Luo was startled. She sized her up for a moment, and seeing that Zhu Yao did not have the slightest intention of joking, her heart sank, and she said in a fluster, "My girl Yu Yao, you can't have fallen for him as well, right?" Bullshit. Zhu Yao glared at her. How could this old lady fall for him? Only a fool like you would treat him as a treasure. Even if he gave her a dozen, she wouldn't even care, alright? Then why did you? No matter what, in any case, the two of you definitely cannot be together. My girl Yu Yao. She stared straight at her. Suddenly, as though she had thought of something, her eyes widened even wider. With a shocked expression, she said, You can't have fallen for me, right? Zhu Yao raised her leg and kicked towards her. Scram. But why in the world? Luo rubbed her sore buttocks, looking confused. At the very least, you have to give me a reason, right? Zhu Yao sank into silence. The frustration in the depths of her heart grew even stronger. After a long while, she slowly said, One day you will be harmed to death by him. She would really be harmed to death. Because in that scenario, she had once clearly witnessed that man leading the various sects to surround and attack the girl. And he even stabbed his sword into the girl's chest. Back then, even she could sense the desolation and despair Zhu Yao felt. If the betrayal of the people was the reason for the girl's resentment, then that Ding Chuanxiu was the fuse that triggered everything. Previously, she did not understand why in the scenario the girl gave her, although she could understand everything. Everyone's faces were unclear, except for that Ding Chuanxiu. Only his face could be seen clearly in the plot. Looking at it now, it wasn't because that person gave her a fatal blow, but because that person occupied an important position in her life. Luo's refusal to answer her was within her expectations. No matter who it was, if they heard a sentence similar to how the Adonis you have a crush on was trash, they would probably want to hang the other party up and beat them up. She should be glad that Luo did not cut off all ties with her, and instead began to chat with her about the past. Yu Yao, you don't know, but we're different from other practitioners. Yu Yao, you don't know, but my life in the past wasn't easy. He's actually the same as me. We're the same type of people. Yu Yao, you don't know, but from the very first day he entered the deity sect, I had already decided to do my best to help him. Yu Yao, you don't know how hard it is for a person to live without any hope. Zhu Yao indeed did not know, but she knew in the future just how great of a price this silly child would have to pay for this trust. Luo, then let me ask you, if one day he objects to you searching for the mystic artifact and tries his best to stop you from dealing with that devil, what will you choose? Zhu Yao only asked this one question. That's different. This is a huge matter in the world. No matter what, the matter with the devil must be resolved. With a determined look, she said word by word. Chapter 255. Ever since then, the two of them sealed the matter regarding Ding Chuanxiu, and with a tacit understanding, they no longer mentioned this person. They began to diligently search for that mystic artifact in Point Formation Clan. There were many people participating in the inter-sect tournament this time. Zhu Yao and Luo had secretly followed them here, and concealed their identities, so when you did not know of them. However, for some reason, they simply could not find the shadow of the mystic artifact. She had even had the metal spirit search for it, but it was to no avail. The girl said that the mystic artifact this time was a jade bamboo flute, made from 1,000-year-old jade bamboo, and was a wood-type mystic artifact. It was normal for the metal spirit to not be able to sense it. Just when they were at their wits' end, they bumped into that trash again. Fellow Taoists, we meet again. Ding Chuanxiu nodded towards the two of them with a courteous smile. Luo's face unwillingly reddened, as she habitually hid behind Zhu Yao. Why aren't the two of you watching the tournament at the front hall? We're just about to head over. Zhu Yao replied, as she sized him up. Why isn't Sect Master Ding hosting the tournament at the front, and instead strolling around here? He smiled, as though he did not mind her rudeness in the slightest. He slowly said, I'm just about to head to the front hall as well, and coincidentally bumped into the two of you, so I came over to greet you on the way. Zhu Yao rolled her eyes. She did not believe that he would be so kind. This humble one simply feels a sense of familiarity when I see a disciple of Forgotten God Palace. He sighed, as though he had recalled something from the past. Back then, I was still a mere foundation disciple, and under a stroke of luck, I even received guidance from an expert in your esteemed sect. Unfortunately, my benefactor was harmed by the devil. When Ying Luo heard that, her eyes instantly shone. Sect Master Ding, you're talking about Ying Luo, Palace Mistress. That's right. Ding Chuanxiu took a step forward and said with a sincere gaze. Palace Mistress Ying Luo is not only my benefactor, she is also the benefactor of the entire cultivation world. The girl instantly smiled till her eyes were curved. Sect Master Ding, you flatter me. No, this is what she deserves. However, he firmly said. This humble one has always wished to see her again, if she were to. He sighed with a pained expression. The girl seemed to want to say something, but Zhu Yao reached out her hand and pulled her. Don't be rash, girl. Don't trust a trash so easily. The reason why he sees you again is because he wants to kill you. Sect Leader Ding, you're really a good person who knows how to repay kindness. Zhu Yao smiled and deliberately emphasized the words, know how to repay kindness. Ding Chuanxiu smiled, apparently not understanding her sarcasm. It's a pity that she's already gone. I'm just sad for her. I can't even repay him even if I want to. The only thing I can do now is to protect the magic tool that my benefactor used to seal the demons with his life. Zhu Yao was startled, as she turned to exchange glances with Ying Luo. Sect Master Ding, are you talking about one of the 5 mystic artifacts? Ying Luo took a step forward and asked. Yes, he nodded. My sect guards the emerald bamboo flute. Thank you for your hard work, Sect Leader Ding. The devil race is extremely dangerous, Ying Luo said in a seemingly casual manner. Even that artifact belonging to my Forgotten God Palace had no choice but to be placed in Sword-Seeking Peak, and be suppressed by the sword auras of numerous spiritual swords. The devil race has already been sealed, there's nothing to fear. Ding Chuanxiu frowned, as though he was extremely displeased with her worrying about the heavens. Just what sort of person is Senior Ying Luo? Since the devil race has already been sealed by her, how could it possibly escape? Furthermore, with my point formation clan's heavenly astral subduing formation, it's easier said than done to escape Descending Spirit Peak. Descending Spirit Peak. Done. Zhu Yao silently gave the girl a thumbs up. After exchanging a few more pleasantries with Ding Chuanxiu, the two of them left. She had finally found out his exact location. Yu Yao, I feel that we can tell Sect Master Ding the truth about this matter, Ying Luo said a little hesitantly. I believe that with his personality he will understand. Zhu Yao's heart clenched. She pulled the girl and sternly said, No, you must never let him know of your identity. Girl, don't be silly. Ying Luo sighed, and said with a stern look as well. Yu Yao, he really isn't a bad person. You can even believe me when we've just met, so why can't you believe him? Because this old lady here is here to save you. Zhu Yao sighed deeply. She felt that it was about time for her to have a chat with the girl about life. Otherwise, she was really afraid that her head would turn hot-headed, and she would bravely advance towards love. Girl, it's been almost 1,000 years. I believe that in your impression, he's a good person. But, how can you be sure that he's still the same? Zhu Yao said word by word. People change. She frowned, and only after a while did she say, I know what you mean, but you saw it for yourself earlier. When he talked about me, he was truly grateful to me, and wanted to repay me. He wasn't faking it. Although there might not be any personal feelings, his intentions were sincere. All right, I admit it. Earlier he was indeed sincere. Zhu Yao nodded. Ying Luo's eyes shone a little, however. She changed the topic. But, how can you be sure that if he knew everything he would believe your words? Ying Luo was startled. Wasn't this very obvious? Since he believed her, naturally he would. Girl. Zhu Yao said with a heavy heart. Gratitude doesn't mean that he will definitely repay you. There's another phrase in this world called biting the hand that feeds you. Ying Luo's eyes widened as she looked at her with a little fury. The corner of her lips moved as she wanted to refute. I know you're going to say that he's not. Zhu Yao interrupted her words. She did not mind using the greatest evil to guess the people of this world, because she had long seen the future. However, Ying Luo did not know. No one can say for sure what will happen in the future, so I won't argue with you about things that have yet to happen. Let's talk about the past. He kept saying that you're his benefactor, and that he has always wanted to repay you. Unfortunately, he no longer has the chance. But is there really no more? She died back then, so there indeed wasn't any. Zhu Yao continued. He also said that he feels a sense of closeness towards the disciples of Forgotten God Palace, because you're from Forgotten God Palace. Don't you think that's inconsistent? Ying Luo looked confused. Ying Luo, if it's you, a person has done you a great favor. However, that person has died. If you wish to repay him, what would you do? Zhu Yao smiled. Only then did Ying Luo seem to understand, and her eyes instantly darkened. You will take care of his family, and will do your best to help those people whom the benefactor cares about. But, Zhu Yao continued, Forgotten God Palace has been oppressed by the various sects for so many years. From its leading position in the cultivation world, to its current state where it cannot even maintain its position as a first-rate deity sect. Has any sect stood out to say a single word? As a sect master on one hand, he feels a sense of closeness towards Forgotten God Palace, but on the other hand, he pretended to be deaf and dumb, and did nothing to save them? Is this really what one should do to repay a debt of gratitude? If he simply wishes to repay you alone, then why would he say words like he's treating Forgotten God Palace especially generously? In the end, he simply knows a debt of gratitude, and does not want to repay it. Ying Luo, calm down and think about it carefully. If he knew that you've already been revived, would he really stand on your side without any hesitation? Or should I ask, if he knew everything, would this debt of gratitude still exist? Ying Luo turned silent. For a long while, she did not say a single word, as her brows deeply furrowed. Zhu Yao knew that she would not be able to wrap her head around it in such a short period of time. To completely overthrow the person whom she had believed in for so long. Forget about her. Even she herself would feel the same. If she heard someone telling her that her master or little wimp would harm her, she would most likely charge forward and fight with the person who spread the rumor. Ying Luo's silence could already be considered as having a very good temper. Ying Luo thought about it for an entire day. Only when night fell did she finally come to look for her. I've thought about it. She once again returned to the look of a naked young girl, as she slapped towards her back. I know you have your reasons, but I'm unable to believe it. After all, I haven't seen it with my own eyes, so I still wish to retain my trust. I won't tell him the truth. Let's first obtain the mystic artifact before thinking about all these nonsense. Zhu Yao nodded. She understood that everyone had their own principles and perseverance. Furthermore, she chuckled. I haven't even developed anything with him yet. It seems a little too early to talk about these now. Why is it so hard to find a man that's pleasing to the eye in this world? Zhu Yao patted on her shoulders, and said with a stern look, You must believe that true love still exists in this world. As long as you wield the hoe well, there won't be any corners. Apui. No, wait, as long as you put in the effort, even an iron rod can be ground into a needle. Something was still a little strange. There's a huge group of good men waiting for you up ahead. That's true. She stroked her own face. With my flowery beauty, there's no reason for me to not be able to find a man. She suddenly turned to size her up. You, however, are in a little danger. Scram. Zhu Yao gave her a kick. Hurry and head to that whatever descending spirit peak. Understood. They had already inquired about it during the day. Descending spirit peak of Point Formation Clan was a forbidden ground, and even the sect's disciples were not allowed to casually approach it. Hence, they had no choice but to wait until nightfall before making their move. Earlier, Zhu Yao had concealed herself to investigate the terrain. The peak was filled with formations, and there was only a single tall building at the peak. The formations inside were even tighter. Most likely, that mystic artifact was inside. Zhu Yao immediately brought Ying Luo and entered from the back of the mountain. Along the way, she carefully avoided the numerous formations and finally arrived in front of that building. The formations on the peak were still manageable, but the formation on the building's door was the heavenly astral descent formation that Ding Chuanqiu had mentioned before. It was formed by several hundred formations of different sizes. It was basically impossible to enter without spending a few days to dispel the formation. Zhu Yao studied it for a moment, but she still did not know what to do. Perhaps we can try that method from before and merge into an I formation? Ying Luo suggested. No way. Zhu Yao shook her head. This formation is different from the barrier from before. Though the barrier is very strong, it only separates a single formation. This array formation was originally formed by hundreds of arrays. Pulling one of them would cause the entire array to move. If there's even the slightest movement, it will immediately activate. Though with her demigod cultivation, she was not afraid of this formation. When the time comes, the commotion would definitely attract people from the various sections. Chapter 256. Let's find the weakest part of the formation first. This array covered the entire building, so there would definitely be a secret door, which was the place where the array was weaker. Zhu Yao carefully circled around this tower, only to hear Ying Luo's voice transmission from above. It's here. She rode on her sword and flew up. Sure enough, she saw a spot on the roof where the spiritual aura was obviously weaker than the rest. However, there was a wind chime formation there. My granddaddy! Ying Luo could not help but curse out. The wind chime array was different from other arrays. It had almost no offensive function, but as long as the array was touched, it would produce a loud bell-like sound. If they were to enter from here, it would be obvious to the others that someone had barged in to snatch the Dharma artifact. My girl Yu Yao, what do you think? What should we do? I remember this building is made of wood. She suddenly asked a completely unrelated question. Ying Luo blinked for a moment before nodding. That's right. Are you good at wood elemental spells? It's all right. That's fine. Zhu Yao said. You just have to directly accelerate the growth of this wooden building and have all of the wood awaken. Then, you just have to desperately grow them. You're saying? Ying Luo's eyes shone. Zhu Yao nodded. The defense on the outside of this building was very tight, and it was very hard to enter from the outside. However, opening it from the inside would be a different story. This building was made of wood, so the array formation would not be on guard against it. If the wood inside started to sprout and grow, the array formation would not be triggered. As long as the wooden building opened an entrance on its own, the array formation would be useless. However, this method could only be used by those with a wood spirit root. Even if her thunder spirit root converted spiritual energy, it would more or less carry the aura of thunder spiritual energy, which would be easily detected by the formation. And Ying Luo possessed the pentaspirit veins, so it was perfect for her to take action. Ying Luo cast a wood-type mystic art and circulated her spiritual energy. Suddenly, not even a moment later, green sprouts began to emerge from the wood on the entire rooftop, and they grew even more luxuriant. Slowly, they gathered towards their direction and began to intertwine with one another. In the end, they turned into a circular passageway formed by trees. It stretched out directly from the roof, as if it had forcefully opened a hole in the formation. All right, let's go in. Ying Luo was overjoyed, as she had already flown in first. Zhu Yao paused for a moment. She looked at this passageway, and at the entrance below, which was still a little frightening. Suddenly, she had a feeling that everything had come too easily. Was she imagining things? My girl Yu Yao, hurry and come. Ying Luo urged from inside. Zhu Yao suppressed the doubts in the depths of her heart, and followed in. Since they entered from the top floor, they were on the top floor. There were a few spirit swords inside, but there was no target magic weapon. The two of them continued their search until they reached the first floor. Only then did they see a dark green flute placed on a high platform. Black qi constantly flowed around the body of the flute, and golden characters could be seen faintly on it. Found it. Zhu Yao looked at the flute, and the bad premonition in the depths of her heart grew even stronger. I just feel that this journey has been too smooth. The mystic artifact back then went rather smoothly too, didn't it? Ying Luo said. That was true. Ying Luo took a step forward. Just as she was about to take that flute, formations suddenly flashed in the surroundings. Be careful. Zhu Yao casually pulled, and immediately pulled her away. At the place where she was standing earlier, four chains instantly appeared and flew up. They flew towards the center, and if she had not pulled them fast enough, Ying Luo would have already been locked up. This is... She was startled as well. Earlier, there were completely no ripples of formations in the building. Just how did this formation appear? Hurry and dodge. The four chains from earlier did not stop, and instead, chased after the two of them. Zhu Yao gave her a push, pushing her a few feet away, and then she leapt backwards. Coincidentally, she had retreated to the entrance, and just as she was about to cast an art to restrain the four chains, Ying Luo suddenly shouted out with a pale face. Yu Yao! Zhu Yao could not react in time, and in the next moment, she simply felt something charging straight at her back, heavily striking her back. Unknowingly, the door to the building had already opened, and a large amount of red light shone, instantly illuminating the entire building. Zhu Yao puked out a mouthful of blood, and simply felt a ringing sound resounding next to her ears. It was especially ear-piercing, and for no reason. It could cause one's heart to tremble. Ying Luo could no longer endure it, as she puked out a mouthful of blood. Girly! Zhu Yao endured the pain, and wanted to head over. Suddenly, a string of copper bells flew in, and the ear-piercing sounds endlessly came from within. Furthermore, the copper bells grew larger, and in an instant, they filled the entire floor. Zhu Yao had no choice but to fly out of the building, only to see that nascent soul practitioners from various sects had long gathered outside, and the one leading them was Ding Chuanxiu. The hell? She just knew that people called Ding Chuanxiu weren't good people. She finally understood what was amiss about earlier. The formations in this building were all to prevent people from entering, and not to prevent people from exiting. If it was truly to guard a mystic artifact, it was impossible for it to only prevent people from entering and not exiting. Ding Chuanxiu had long planned it, and was just waiting for them to deliver themselves to his doorstep. The moment Zhu Yao flew out, the building had already collapsed. The copper bells flew out, and had already grown to the height of a human. The ringing of the bells reverberated, and the copper bells actually began to slowly turn transparent, revealing an absolute beauty in a green robe and green skirt. Girly! Zhu Yao was stunned. Since when was she locked in the copper bells? And she had even recovered her original appearance. Ying Luo, as I thought, it's that dead Ying Luo. The crowd let out cries of shock. How could she possibly come back to life? Didn't her soul scatter a long time ago? Then what about the devil? Did she come back to life as well? Heavens, that other woman can't be a devil, right? It's no wonder they're here to snatch the mystic artifact. Everyone! Ding Chuanxiu suddenly said loudly. Ying Luo has already been bewitched by the devil, and has already turned into a devil. For the sake of all living beings in the world, we definitely cannot let these two devils off today. When the crowd heard this, they drew out their own weapons one after another, looking as though they were planning to go all out. Zhu Yao puked out blood from anger. She just knew that the moment the girl's identity was exposed, these people would gang up on her. If it were any other time, she really wouldn't place these people in her eyes. However, that strange copper bell earlier had instantly shattered her dantian, and it was already not bad that she was able to hold on. Yu Yao! Ying Luo's voice transmission suddenly sounded in the depths of her heart. Take the emerald bamboo flute and leave. Remember what you promised me, to completely eliminate the devil. The hell, girly, do you have to be such a saint? And now, you're still thinking about the devil. Those people are the ones who want to kill you. I'm a dead person in the first place. As though she knew what she was thinking, her voice sunk. Hurry and leave. If your identity is exposed, it will affect Forgotten God Palace. Zhu Yao turned to look at the flute in the ruins, and then turned to look at Ying Luo, who was already surrounded and attacked by the various sects in the copper bell. Gritting her teeth, She swung her sword to deflect a nascent soul practitioner who was attacking her. She immediately summoned her sword intent. A lightning phoenix instantly soared into the sky. Its sharp cry instantly resounded through the clouds, suppressing the sound of the copper bell. With a twist of Zhu Yao's hand, that lightning phoenix charged straight towards the copper bell. With a cracking sound, a crack appeared on the copper bell. She immediately flew over and reached out her hand to pass through that crack. In an instant, her right hand felt as though it was being pierced by thousands of steel needles, and the pain was unbearable. Yet, she had no choice but to endure it, as she desperately pulled the girl Ying Luo out. When she looked at her palm again, it was already a bloody mess. It really fucking hurts. Zhu Yao recalled her sword intent. The lightning phoenix flapped its wings and suddenly changed directions, pouncing straight towards the other practitioners. The sky was filled with lightning pressure, causing everyone to kneel onto the ground. Taking this opportunity, Zhu Yao pulled the girl and madly flew towards the east. Yu Yao, you shouldn't have saved me? Ying Luo suddenly spoke up. Bullshit. Zhu Yao really wanted to turn around and spit on her face. Not caring if she believed it or not, she immediately said it out. This old lady will be honest with you. I'm basically not here for some devil or whatever. This old lady's goal is to save you. The girl was stunned. A long while later, Yu Yao. Amen. As I thought. I'm the one you like, right? Don't force me to kick you down. Zhu Yao madly flew the entire way. In the first place, the spiritual energy in her shattered dantian had already mostly dispersed, and she had even forcefully summoned her sword intent earlier. She felt an unprecedented fatigue, and the spiritual energy in her body was about to reach the bottom. After flying for a while, she passed the task of flying the sword to Ying Luo. However, her speed had evidently slowed down. But fortunately, there were no longer any pursuers behind them. With their speed earlier, it was very hard for the various sects to catch up to them. What's that place in front? Zhu Yao faintly saw a floating mountain in front of her, but she did not know why there wasn't any spiritual energy floating in the surroundings. On top of the mountain, she could faintly see the shape of a palace. It's that ancient ruin. Ying Luo's eyes shone as she explained. It's the one where the devil resided. Let's go in. Zhu Yao immediately made a decision. Not only was the final mystic artifact here, but because of the devil, many practitioners would not recklessly approach it either. Ying Luo naturally understood her intentions, as she immediately flew into that palace on her sword. That palace was extremely huge, and in its surroundings, there were gigantic stone pillars that were at least 3 stories tall. Ying Luo searched for a flat ground, before placing her down. She then took out a few energy-replenishing pellets and passed them to her. No need. Zhu Yao shook her head. My dantian has shattered, so medicinal pellets are basically useless. Her hands trembled, and her face instantly paled a little. Yu Yao. It's fine. This isn't the first time my dantian has shattered either. After being shattered for so long, she had already gotten used to it. Zhu Yao looked at her crying face and glared at her. Don't make it look as though I'm about to die. But wouldn't a shattered dantian mean death? Don't worry, I can recover. Zhu Yao took a deep breath, sat down in a lotus position, and casually muttered. I never expected that copper bell to be so incredible either. Yu Yao, I'm sorry. Her expression turned even paler. A moment later she said. That's a body-locking bell. It's a God's artifact? You know about it? She had a shocked look. Chapter 257. The truth-sealing bell is a divine artifact that can see through any disguise, and it's even able to conceal one's aura. Ying Luo turned to look at her. Her face was filled with guilt. That was originally my weapon. And then you gave it to Ding Chuanqiu? Zhu Yao continued. She lowered her head. That divine artifact has a symbiotic contract with me. I can't use it anymore once I die. I should have known that with my resurrection, the divine artifact would naturally be activated. He must have seen through my identity the first time we met, she said with a hint of self-mockery. Back then, I gave him the divine artifact just to protect him from being harmed by scoundrels. I didn't expect that he would use this against me. I've said it before. That guy wasn't a good person. Zhu Yao coldly snorted. Ying Luo smiled bitterly. You're right. Ever since we met, every single thing you've said has come true. Whether it's the reaction of the world, or... Her voice suddenly became unimaginably deep, as if she had completely lost her vitality. Her eyes were empty, as if she was mumbling to herself. But I never believed it, and I didn't want to believe it. When I was young, I was bullied by others. When I cultivated, I was ostracized by others. When I finally found a home, I was disliked by my elder sister. At that time, I could still tell myself that I had a clear conscience. People who lived in this world were lonely at the beginning, and they would die alone in the end. Thus, even if I had to risk my life to seal the devil race, I would never regret it. But I don't understand. I was the one who saved the world. I don't expect others to be grateful to me, but why do I attract hatred instead? They didn't even give me a chance to explain and directly condemned me. Then what I did, was it right or wrong? I only seek to have a clear conscience. Why is it that others are able to remain calm even though they have clearly done something shameful? Why did I come to this world? She suddenly stopped speaking, and despair slowly seeped out of her eyes. Ying Luo. Zhu Yao pressed down on her hand. You still have me. I trust you. She was stunned for a moment before she slowly smiled and nodded heavily. Yes, and you. After a long time. Yu Yao. Ah. You really are after my beauty, aren't you? Scram. Just admit it. Although this is against human nature, look, we've already become two rats crossing the street. Why don't we just make do with it? I won't despise you. Do you think I despise you? When you were reincarnated, your mouse shook too much and you chose the wrong gender, didn't you? Mouse. What was that? Really, if you don't choose me, you will be lonely for the rest of your life. I have a man, get lost. Ah, that's impossible. You don't even have breasts. You're the one with no breasts. You're the one with no breasts. Ying Luo. Former palace lord, could it be that your sister doesn't like you because you have some improper thoughts about her? Zhu Yao adjusted her breathing for a moment, calmed her heart, and began to meditate to restore her dantian. Taking a deep breath, she slowly released her own sword intent. A white phoenix slowly flew out from her body and spread its huge wings to protect her body. The spiritual energy in her body instantly calmed down. Only then did she guide the spiritual energy to gather at her dantian bit by bit, and then she slowly began to repair it. She used spiritual energy to fill up and flatten the damaged areas. After finally forming an embryonic form, she guided the spiritual energy into it. However, the moment the spiritual energy entered, the dantian that had just been repaired, like a fragile egg, once again shattered. The spiritual energy that she had painstakingly accumulated instantly went out of control and began to scatter around her body. Zhu Yao puked out a mouthful of blood. Yu Yao. Ying Luo was startled as she woke up from her meditative state. Her injuries were not light either, yet she could no longer be bothered to treat her injuries. She looked at her with a worried expression. What's wrong? That's impossible. Zhu Yao was frightened by her own situation. Her method wasn't wrong, right? She had completely followed her master's instructions, and it wasn't her first time repairing it either. It was impossible that it couldn't be repaired. But why was the spiritual energy in her body flowing away even faster? The moment the spiritual energy entered her body, it scattered. She once again meditated, and tried 2 more times, only to realize that the same situation was happening. Her dantian could not be repaired at all. Zhu Yao was a little confused. My dantian can't be repaired. This wasn't a divine art. Could it be because of that god's artifact? However, she clearly did not sense any abnormalities in her body. Ying Luo frowned, as she was unable to think of a solution for a moment. Don't worry, take it slow. It's very safe here. Rest for a moment. Zhu Yao nodded. She tried a few more times, yet the same situation was happening. If this continued, her spiritual energy would only decrease. Right now, she had no choice but to end it as soon as possible. She cast an art to seal a few of her meridians, so that her spiritual energy wouldn't flow away too quickly. Girlie, are your injuries healed yet? They're already 50% healed, she solemnly said. Alright, then let us first search for the final mystic artifact. But your injuries? We'll talk about it after we find it. Zhu Yao stood up and walked towards the depths of the ruins. After pondering for a moment, she took out the metal spirit and had it sense the exact location of the mystic artifact. This time, the metal spirit leaped onto the ground and then rolled in a certain direction. Chick! It found the place. Zhu Yao signaled Ying Luo with her eyes and hurriedly followed after it. The braziers in the surroundings began to light up, illuminating the entire palace. Not far away, a stone door appeared, and it was so tall that the end could not be seen. Yu Yao, these ruins are very dangerous, Ying Luo said with a stern expression. The place behind this door is even more dangerous. Formations will transport people to various terrifying places. Back then, I was transported to a dark forest, and there were countless ferocious beasts inside. It was so terrifying. Zhu Yao's heart could not help but thump. Chick chick chick. The metal spirit seemed to have grown impatient from waiting, as it jumped a few times on the ground. No matter what, let us first take a look. Zhu Yao took a step forward and reached out her hand to touch the door. As expected, the teleportation formation next to the door shone brightly. Ying Luo was still endlessly warning her, when Zhu Yao immediately pulled her into the formation, and the scenery in front of her changed. These ruins are very complicated. Though the metal spirit is leading the way, to find that mystic artifact, it definitely won't be that easy. She suddenly widened her eyes and stared at the pitch-black dagger on the table in front of her. For a moment, she could not find any words. How was this possible? In the past, she had a slim chance of survival when she entered, but this time, putting aside the fact that nothing happened, she even saw a mystic artifact the moment she entered? Yu Yao, I'm not seeing things, right? Zhu Yao did not expect that she would find a mystic artifact so easily either. With a single teleportation, she was transported right in front of the dagger. She was simply too pleasantly surprised. Perhaps it's because the metal spirit is leading the way. She pointed at a certain rock that had already jumped onto the table, and was about to push the dagger off the table. Ying Luo reluctantly accepted this answer. Chick! The metal spirit suddenly called out, and that black dagger flew up. Zhu Yao casually pulled open her storage pouch. Yet that dagger paused for a moment, before turning around and flying in front of Ying Luo. It can't be right? The metal spirit has changed its affections so quickly. Chick! It suddenly called out again. 3 mystic artifacts instantly flew out from her storage pouch, and they flew towards Ying Luo as well. Chick chick chick. Only then did the metal spirit roll back. As though it had encountered something worth being happy about, it happily circled around her and chirped nonstop. Chick chick, mistress is mine. Chick chick, you mystic artifacts scram. Chick chick Zhu Yao. Ying Luo, who was buried by the mystic artifacts. Girlie. These 4 mystic artifacts, it's best if you keep them. She felt that if she kept them on her, there would be a day when they would be smashed by the metal spirit. Ying Luo nodded, and only then did she keep them. After inspecting her surroundings, she realized that they were in a stone room. At the center, there was only a study table and a chair, and it looked like a study room. The image of a phoenix was faintly engraved on the table. But strangely, there wasn't a single book here. Zhu Yao touched the image on the table, and felt that she had seen it somewhere before. Yu Yao, that teleportation formation has already disappeared. How are we going to return? Ying Luo said. Since there's a teleportation formation here, naturally, there's a way out as well. This stone room was not locked, and they immediately walked out to find the exit. Outside was a passageway, and on both sides were several similar stone rooms. Let's look around first. Be careful. After all, this was an ancient ruin, so they could not let their guard down. Zhu Yao immediately had the girl Ying Luo place down a defensive barrier, before pushing open the door to the next stone room. Wow, so many clothes! Ying Luo exclaimed and walked in. What entered her eyes were clothes of various colors, and they filled the entire room. Some were neatly stacked in the cupboards, while some were scattered everywhere. It seems like the owner of this ruin is a woman. Zhu Yao nodded. She casually picked up one of them and began to inspect it carefully. The clothes were of various colors, and their figures were about the same as hers. The sleeves were similarly embroidered with the familiar image of a phoenix. Compared to the other clothes, the sleeves were especially small, and the cuffs were sticking to her wrists. This design was a little like her habit. She had always felt that the sleeves of ancient clothes were too much of a hindrance, and were not as convenient as the modern straight sleeves. Hence, every time her master gave her clothes, the cuffs would shrink. A strange feeling flashed in the depths of her heart. She never expected that other than herself, there would be others who had such a habit as well. My girl Yu Yao, come quick. Ying Luo stretched her head out from another stone room, and excitedly waved at her. What's wrong? She walked over. The girl pushed her in. Hurry and look, there are so many things of various colors here. Zhu Yao took a look, and saw that there were dozens of large chests placed in the room, and they were filled with various types of dried fruits. Most probably because there were preservation formations on the chests. Even after so many years, the dried fruits were not affected in the slightest, and were still emitting out an alluring fragrance. It smells so good. Ying Luo wiped away her saliva. I wonder what it is. Dried fruits. Zhu Yao replied. Dried fruits. Ying Luo's eyes shone. Then it's edible? As she said that, she picked up a purple dried fruit and bit down on it. However, she let out a miserable cry. Aya! That dried fruit suddenly ignited with purple flames. Her hand trembled, and she threw it down. Half of her sleeves were burnt away. The girl looked like she was about to cry. What happened to the promise that it's edible? Your method is wrong. Zhu Yao sighed. She stepped forward and picked up one as well. With a forceful pinch, the purple shell shattered, revealing a dark purple kernel within. She then passed it over. The shell of this dried fruit will burn when it comes in contact with water. Only the kernel inside can be eaten. Ying Luo curiously received it. There's actually such a mystical dried fruit. What's it called? Purple flame fruit, Zhu Yao said. Then what about this? She pointed to the chest of snow-white dried fruits at the side. Snow will. She then picked up a red one. What about this? Hongru. Whoa. Her face was filled with shock. My girl Yu Yao, you're so amazing. How do you know about it? I've never even seen these dried fruits before. How's that possible? Stop joking. Aren't these usually prepared by the Phoenix race? She paused halfway through her words. She suddenly widened her eyes, and a bold guess suddenly surfaced in the depths of her heart, causing her to be flustered for a moment. There's an especially large chest at the center. Ying Luo held onto a chest with one hand, and leaped. As she approached, she said, This chest is so big, I wonder what's inside? Zhu Yao raised her head to look, and as expected, a phoenix with its wings spread out was engraved on the chest as well. However, the beautiful phoenix was missing its tail feathers. In an instant, the answer in the depths of her heart was about to come out. Ying Luo had already opened the lid of the chest, and in an instant, a golden light scattered out from within. Golden seeds of equal size and rotting filled the entire chest. Sunflower seeds, they're golden! Ying Luo exclaimed. Zhu Yao simply felt her breathing tighten, and her legs weakly took 2 steps back. The phoenix's emblem, the clothes with the unique cuffs, and the various dried fruits. The various clues instantly connected together. This ruin. My girl Yu Yao, what's wrong? Seeing her face suddenly turn pale, Ying Luo was startled, and immediately crawled out. Have your injuries worsened? I know who the owner of this ruin is. Ying Luo was a little dumbfounded. Oh. Zhu Yao did not answer. She turned around and left the door, heading towards the end of the passage. Yu Yao, wait a moment. Ying Luo chased after her. Yet the more she ran, the more anxious she became. Waves of heartache emerged from the depths of her heart, along with a slight uncontrollable panic. She was simply too familiar with those things, to the point where she could guess that they were prepared for her the moment she saw them. And there was only one person who made these things. She ran for exactly 7 minutes, before she reached the deepest part of the palace. In front of her was a stone door that was several tens of meters tall, and on top of the stone door, a gigantic tree was engraved. Its roots touched the ground, and its leaves reached the sky, as though it was connected to the entire heaven and earth. Parasol Tree, the place where the Phoenix clan resided. Yu Yao. Ing Luo chased after her. There's no way out? She carefully looked at the door. There seems to be a word curse on this door, and it can only be opened with a specific incantation. Zhu Yao raised her head to look at that tree. It was both familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. Heaving a deep sigh, she lightly called out, "Xiao Bai." Chapter 258. It seemed to be a meticulously cultivated piece of land. Various fruit trees were planted everywhere, and the ground was filled with a sea of flowers. At the center of the sea of flowers floated a man, dressed in a snow-white robe. His face was peerless, and his lips carried a smile. It was as though a single glance at him would make one feel as warm as spring. Currently, however, his eyes were tightly shut, as though he had fallen into a deep sleep. Zhu Yao walked in step by step. With every step she took, her heart would sink a little, and dense pain would spread throughout her entire body. After opening and closing her mouth a few times, she finally found her voice. Before she could speak, she sighed. "Xiao Bai." Unknowingly, a gust of wind blew. As the breeze blew past, the sky filled with flower petals fluttered. Amidst the falling petals, the man's figure seemed to have been blown away, as he slowly disappeared. She never expected that the owner of this ruin would actually be Xiao Bai. Back then, when he passed through the world crossing door, he should have arrived in this world, and then built this place. The things in the house outside were definitely prepared for her as well. Unfortunately, she came a little too late. The things were still here, but he was no longer here. The injuries he suffered when he passed through the world crossing door back then must have been very severe. Initially, she sent him in to save his life, but she never expected that things would turn out contrary to her wishes. "My girl Yu Yao." Ing Luo looked at her a little cautiously, and said hesitantly, "You know that ancient god earlier?" Zhu Yao took a deep breath, suppressed the sadness in the depths of her heart, and nodded heavily. "Amen, that's my elder brother." "Ah, the ancient god is your elder brother? There must be a mistake in my listening method. All right, let's head out." Zhu Yao waved her hand. Xiao Bai was Yuing, and he was no longer here. They directly passed through the flowers in front of them, and according to Xiao Bai's habits, the teleportation formation should be nearby. As expected, a moment later, they found a teleportation formation next to a large rock. Ing Luo was dumbfounded, as she sized Zhu Yao up. "Yu Yao, I'm starting to believe that you're a god now. Putting aside the fact that you didn't encounter any danger in this ruin of the ancient god, you even know where the teleportation formation is." "I'm not an ancient god," Zhu Yao corrected. "What? The owner of this ruin is a phoenix of the god race." Zhu Yao took the first step into the formation, turned around and said, "Right now we already have 4 mystic artifacts. Once we gather all 5 of them and deal with the devil, there's no need for you to hide with me anymore." She chuckled and followed. "I hope so." Hopefully, tomorrow would be as beautiful as he had imagined. I've heard people say that you should always have dreams, because you can only dream about things that you can't achieve. Zhu Yao really did not expect that when a person was unlucky, even drinking water would cause them to choke their teeth. That teleportation formation was extremely powerful. Furthermore, it was fast, far, and accurate. It directly teleported them into the encirclement of the various sects and clans. Dozens of nascent soul cultivators and countless golden core cultivators surrounded the 2 of them in layers. The leader of the group was Ding Chuanqiu, who kept saying that he would repay the debt of gratitude. Therefore, people with this name were not good people. They came out of the ruins. As expected, only the demon race. Sect leader Ding is right. They were bewitched by the devil clan. Could the devil race have been resurrected as well? Ing Luo couldn't have been a spy for the devil race right from the start, right? We can't let the devil race wreak havoc in the world. They have already turned into devils. The crowd was in a state of panic, yet every single one of them summoned their weapons, looking as though they were planning to fight to the death. "We're not devils," Ing Luo loudly said. "The seal on the devil race has yet to be broken either. The reason why we gathered the 5 mystic artifacts is merely to get rid of the devil race once and for all. Since the seal on the devil race has yet to be broken, isn't finding another 5 mystic artifacts superfluous?" Ding Chuanqiu stood out. Glancing at the two of them, he said with a sunken voice, "Palace Mistress Ing Luo, you said you're not a devil. Then, may I ask how you were resurrected? When a normal person's soul is scattered into 5, even if they can gather together again, it's impossible for them to be resurrected. In this world, other than the devil race, who else has the power to resurrect from the dead?" Ing Luo frowned, as though she was looking at Ding Chuanqiu a little strangely. "Sect leader Ding, whether I'm a devil or not, you who possesses the copper bell should know better than me. That divine artifact copper bell had a symbiotic contract with her. If she were to turn into a devil, how could the divine artifact copper bell be activated?" Ding Chuanqiu's expression changed, though he immediately recovered. With a hint of anger, he said, "A bunch of nonsense. How would I know about your matters? Sect leader Ding, haven't you always said that Palace Mistress Ing has shown you great kindness?" Zhu Yao said with a cold laugh. "Is this how you repay your kindness?" He still said with a righteous look. "It's precisely because of this great kindness that I'm unwilling to let her walk the path of the devil." "The path of the devil," Zhu Yao continued. "As a descendant of the god race, she was resurrected in the sacred lake. Her soul was only awakened as a living soul because of the ancient formation in the sacred lake. Could it be that sect leader Ding believes that the million years of inheritance of Forgotten God Palace are all of the devil's path?" When her words fell, the crowd of sects began to exchange glances. A hint of panic flashed past Ding Chuanqiu's face. He was the one who suggested to suppress Ing Luo. If the crowd were to be convinced now, Point Formation sect's reputation would definitely plummet. Currently, the sword was already on the bowstring, and it had to be released. No matter what, these 2 people had to die here. Even if you 2 aren't devils, you 2 definitely have ill intentions for barging into Point Formation sect and collecting the 5 mystic artifacts. No matter what, for the sake of all living beings under the heavens, we will definitely not forgive the 2 of you." Ing Luo was instantly enraged. "Humph, what do you mean by all living beings under the heavens? In the end, you people simply can't bear to see me resurrect. Palace Mistress Ing Luo's resurrection is naturally joyous for us." Killing intent flashed in Ding Chuanqiu's eyes. "However, that has to be the true Palace Mistress. The one the various sects revere is the Palace Mistress who sacrificed herself to save the world. Unfortunately, she will never be able to return. And you're just a demoness who has been bewitched by the devil." Zhu Yao coldly laughed. The meaning behind his words was that he would only recognize the dead, and not the living. Bullshit. Ing Luo's entire body was trembling from anger. "If we're talking about turning into a devil, Ding Chuanqiu, you're the true devil. Everyone, there's no need to speak any further with them." Ding Chuanqiu turned to look at the various sects behind him, and said, "For the sake of all living beings under the heavens, we must not let these 2 people leave this place today. Otherwise, when the devil breaks out of the seal, it will be even more out of control." As he said that, he had already charged over with his sword in hand. With someone taking the lead, the others naturally summoned their spiritual swords as well, and attacked the 2 of them. Ing Luo hurriedly took a few steps back while carrying Zhu Yao. Zhu Yao placed down a defensive barrier with her hand seals. However, one of them was heavily injured, her dantian shattered, and her spiritual energy was unstable, while the other was half crippled, and only half of her spiritual energy had been crippled. Under this wave of human wave tactics, they could only dodge. "What should we do?" Ing Luo blocked an attack from a nascent soul practitioner, and sent a voice transmission. Zhu Yao gritted her teeth. "There's no other way now. Ing Luo's 4 mystic artifacts, are they with you?" "They are." "Release the seal first, and then flee as far as you can." Ing Luo was startled, and then, she fiercely widened her eyes. "You're saying?" "That's right. With Ding Chuanqiu's personality, I believe he won't trust anyone." The final mystic artifact is definitely with him, Zhu Yao solemnly said. In a while I will restrain him. Take this opportunity to release the seal. She was silent for a moment before nodding. A nascent soul practitioner materialized thousands of spiritual swords, and they came attacking towards the two of them. Zhu Yao pushed Ying Luo away, and took a deep breath. In an instant the pressure of a demigod was completely released, and in an instant, all of the practitioners stopped their movements. Some of them even directly fell from the sky, puking out blood as they laid on the ground, unable to move. Demigod. Demigod practitioner. Everyone's eyes were filled with shock. However, Zhu Yao was a little unable to hold on any longer. Even though she was merely releasing her pressure, the turmoil in her body was already causing her to be unable to breathe due to the pain. Her meridians felt as though they were being sliced apart inch by inch. Yet she had no choice but to grit her teeth and endure. With a solemn voice she said, "Girl now." Ying Luo had already begun to cast an art. A golden sealing formation rose from her fingertips, and just as the seal was about to be released, behind her, a black figure suddenly appeared, and he slashed down with a sword. "I still have to thank you for gifting me a god's artifact." "The hell, that despicable man." "Ying Luo," Zhu Yao exclaimed. Without thinking too much, she immediately circulated the spiritual energy in her entire body, summoned her sword intent, and with her fastest speed, she attacked in the girl's direction. In the nick of time, the despicable man who launched a sneak attack was instantly sent flying. Falling onto the ground, he puked out a mouthful of blood, and with a ding sound, a string of copper bells rolled out from his body, shattering into pieces. Evidently, he had used these copper bells to dodge her pressure earlier. Poor Zhu Yao could no longer hold on, as blood flowed out freely from the corner of her lips. The pressure of a demigod instantly disappeared as well. She had overdrafted both her spiritual and physical energy, and her cultivation was currently falling at an extremely fast speed. "Yu Yao." Ying Luo's face paled. A hint of confusion flashed past her eyes. Looking at Zhu Yao who was on her last breath, she then turned to look at Ding Chuanxiu who was on the ground, as well as the crowd from the various sects who had already begun to crawl up, yet looked as though they wished to tear the two of them into pieces. With a twist of her fingers, she increased the circulation of spiritual energy, and the seal was instantly released. The 4 mystic artifacts in her storage pouch flew out at the same time, and one flew out from beside Ding Chuanxiu as well. The 5 mystic artifacts flew into the air, and circled twice. A few cracking sounds could be heard. The 5 mystic artifacts broke at the same time. Devilish aura surged into the sky, forming a vortex that lingered in the air. The sky instantly darkened, and waves of chilly winds blew, chilling one to the bone. The surrounding trees instantly withered as well. Waves of terrifying, ear-piercing screams filled the entire heaven and earth. "Devil, the devil has revived. Heavens, this world is about to be finished. What should we do? What should we do? We will all die. All of us will die." The crowd instantly fell into a state of panic. How could they still remember to capture the two of them? There were even a few people who had already flown on their flying swords and fled into the distance. Zhu Yao took a deep breath, and forced herself not to faint. She had already reached the final step. As long as she used the devil's smiting imprint to exterminate this devil, she could not fail this time no matter what. "Girlie, leave this place. Don't turn back." Ying Luo was startled, as she turned to look at her. "What are you spacing out for? Hurry and leave." "Where to?" she suddenly asked. "Anywhere is fine. Live well. Leave the devil to me." She blanked for a moment before asking again. "Yu Yao, after exterminating the devil, can I really return to my previous life?" She smiled, as though she had already obtained the answer. "Look, the devil has yet to appear, and they already can't tolerate me. Even if we settle it this time, maybe they'll pin the next one on my head, and the next after that. Yu Yao, the true devil isn't here, but in the hearts of everyone. You can leave. Hide far away. As long as you're alive, there's hope. Live." However, she still did not move an inch, and her eyes grew even more confused. Suddenly, she spoke up. "So what if I'm alive? Yu Yao, I really don't understand. Just what did I do wrong? I have never let down this world in the slightest, so why must the people of this world treat me like this? She suddenly took a step forward, and a golden mystic seal once again shone in her hands. Don't do anything foolish. Zhu Yao grew anxious, as she puked out a few mouthfuls of blood. Her vision was already turning blurry. She was already an absolute beauty in the first place, and with a single smile, it was as though everything in the world had lost their color. Yu Yao, in my entire life, I have never known what hope is, because I have never had one. You're the one who taught me. Thank you. When the entire world betrayed me, you still stood by my side unwaveringly. However, I'm too tired, and I don't wish to continue. I have always done things with a clear conscience, and in the future, I don't wish to live under schemes either. The speed of her hands increased, and the faint light of the devil-smiting seal could already be seen. Zhu Yao's heart clenched. She was trying to risk her life. Zhu Yao wanted to cast an art to stop her from forming the seal. Just as she stood up, she heard something resounding in her ears. Ting. In an instant, she realized she was unable to move. It was as though her entire body was frozen, and it was as though her body was no longer her own. The hell? Girl, hurry and stop. She wanted to shout out loudly, yet it was as though she had lost control of her body, and was unable to open her mouth. The hell, realm spirit? What the hell are you doing? Zhu Yao was burning with anxiety, yet, she could only watch as the girl's hands grew brighter and brighter. As she smiled, she spoke out words that sounded both grateful and regretful. Yu Yao, thank you. If it's possible, I really wish to call you master. In the next moment, a dazzling white light spread out in all directions. Like a shockwave, it spread throughout the entire world. Wherever it went, the condensed devilish aura instantly disappeared without a trace. The scene in front of her grew even more blurry, as though it was a canvas that was no longer real. It was as though her soul was being pulled out from within, and suddenly, it distorted. The scene changed, and she once again returned to the sea of flowers in the scenario. That malevolent-looking woman with disheveled hair and a body of resentment once again appeared in front of her. Her body was filled with scars that seemed to have been forcefully cut open. She was still asking the same question over and over again in a desolate and despairing manner. Why? Why? Zhu Yao simply felt her heart aching. She no longer had the fear she had before, and could not help but take a step forward. Holding on to that woman's hand, her tears could not help but fall. Girl. The woman who was still roaring incessantly earlier, suddenly blanked. The resentment on her body instantly retracted as well. Slowly, she raised her head, and her turbid eyes slowly regained focus. Yu Yao. She nodded heavily. The resentment on the woman's body suddenly began to disappear. In an instant, it had already disappeared without a trace, and even the scars on her body had disappeared as well. She had once again returned to that breathtakingly beautiful woman. She revealed a smile, and the surrounding sea of flowers instantly bloomed. She lightly muttered, "Master." Chapter 259. Ting. A QQ chat window popped out. With a series of crackling sounds, the entire interface began to let out fireworks. Realm Spirit. Congratulations, young lady. You have successfully eliminated Resentment X1. You have opened the door to a new world, you know? Zhu Yao felt uncomfortable in her heart, and the anger she was suppressing with all her might began to leak out. Just what happened earlier. I clearly could have saved her. Why can't I move all of a sudden? Why can't my Dantian be restored? Don't think I don't know you're the one behind this. I heard the notification. Realm Spirit, young lady, you must know that due to the tight schedule this time, it's understandable that there are flaws in the quality. You might think of it as a one-time avatar, so it's normal that it can't be restored. Zhu Yao glared at him. Don't use such a reason to fool me. Tell me the truth. Realm Spirit. Young lady, the past cannot be changed. The past? Zhu Yao was startled. What do you mean? Realm Spirit. Young lady, resentment is real. The reason why history is history is because it cannot be changed. You must know, though you have already returned to the past, The things you can change are very limited. Where there's a cause, there's an effect. What you can change is the process, not the result. Ying Luo was destined to die at that time. This is history. If everything were to change, the butterfly effect it would produce would be immeasurable. Then what about before? Zhu Yao continued to ask. Back then, didn't the spatial disorder not cause any problems as well? When she reincarnated into the black tortoise, didn't she encounter a prelude as well? Realm spirit. Then how can you be sure that everything you experienced wasn't the result of the butterfly effect? Zhu Yao was startled. She suddenly thought of Xiaobai and Yuing. Realm spirit. Friend, the reason why you can't tell is because you first experienced the effect, and then found the cause. It's because you opened the world-crossing door and saved the god race. That's why you encountered all those things later on. What you're saying is, if we look at the timeline, the first mission I did was actually that time with the god race? Realm spirit. Scattering flowers, I'll give you 32 likes. She felt a little uncomfortable in the depths of her heart. Though they did not spend much time together, she had truly treated Ying Luo as her best friend. She had always thought that she would be able to save her, and that was the reason why she had gone there. However, she had never expected that Realm Spirit would tell her that her death was destined from the very start, and that it could not be changed. Then why did you want me to make this trip? First he gave her hope, but then he rejected her completely. This was too cruel. The screen was silent for a while before the next line of words appeared. Realm Spirit. Because I believe that you can resolve the resentment and save the 3 realms. Realm Spirit. Yao Yao, why don't you think about it from another perspective? Because of your appearance, Ying Luo gained a friendship, becoming the only ray of light in her tragic life. In fact, because of this ray of light, after her death, she no longer needed to only be left with despair and resentment. Resentment was born from a person's resentment, unwillingness, and other emotions when they were alive. Because of expectations, disappointment, and despair, resentment could not be extinguished. I couldn't find a way to get rid of it, but you did. Realm Spirit. Human nature is unwilling to be ordinary. Giving hope to despair is the way to eliminate resentment. Yao Yao, you were the one who helped me find this method. It must be known that resentment was born from a person, and it was originally one with a person's soul. Even if it was suppressed by the river of forgetfulness and forcefully left the soul, it was still a part of the soul. This was also the reason why resentment could not be extinguished. As long as the soul was not extinguished, resentment would not be extinguished. A soul that had its resentment suppressed was incomplete in the first place. Even if it reincarnated, a frail soul would naturally have weak luck. Most of them would only have the lives of cannon fodder. Realm Spirit. From another perspective, you eliminated Ying Luo's resentment, but you also supplemented her spiritual body from the side. In her next life, she would no longer be cannon fodder. But in the end, I still couldn't save her. So what if she's in her next life? In her next life, or the life after that, she would no longer be Ying Luo. She could not understand. Shouldn't good people be rewarded? Why did a person like this girl, in the end, become a bug-like existence? She clearly did not do anything wrong. Yet, those people who were filled with evil were able to skyrocket and attain the Tao and become deities. Young maiden. A deep and sunken male voice suddenly sounded, and it even faintly carried a sigh. Realm Spirit finally abandoned the conversation window and spoke up. You must know this is actually Girl Ying Luo's own choice. In that sort of situation, even if she survived, she might not live a better life than her next life. But when a soul reincarnates with its resentment suppressed, isn't it supposed to have weak luck, and can only be used as cannon fodder? Zhu Yao glared at him. How good can her next life be? That was the case, but young maiden, you have already eliminated her resentment. This way, her soul will already be complete. What do you mean? She did not understand. The conversation window let out a ding, and suddenly, a video interface popped out. On the screen, a gentle female practitioner was carrying a baby girl, and was softly coaxing her. That baby girl was naturally Ying Luo's reincarnation, and the woman who was carrying her looked a little familiar. For a moment, She could not recall where she had seen her before. "Milady, it's been hard on you." Suddenly, the door was pushed open, and a white-robed figure hurriedly walked in. "Let me see the child." As he said that, he carried that baby girl, turned around and raised his head, revealing a familiar middle-aged face. "Zmo." Zhu Yao widened her eyes, and took a step forward. She was wondering why that woman looked so familiar. So she was Zemo's wife, and the baby girl in his arms was... Little Radish is Ying Luo. Congratulations, you got it right. How? How is this possible? Zhu Yao was a little confused. "Young maiden, have you forgotten what Ying Luo said to you before she died?" Zhu Yao was startled. "She said she wanted to call me." The hell? She really became her master. "Zhu Yao, this is why I said history cannot be changed. If Ying Luo did not die, then she would not be able to reincarnate as Little Radish. And naturally, you two would not have a master-disciple relationship in the past." Zhu Yao frowned, yet she was still a little unable to accept it. In other words, Little Radish's soul was incomplete in the beginning? That's right. So her luck was low, and she would be taken over at the age of 20. However, because you took her in as your disciple, it was avoided. Thinking about it carefully, Little Radish really had the life of a cannon fodder in the first place. So don't feel guilty for not being able to save Ying Luo. This was all her own choice. No matter how well you did in the end, she would still make the same choice. If you insist on saving her, the result might not be any better, and even Yu Luo might disappear. Zhu Yao sighed deeply, and only then did the knot in the depths of her heart dissipate a little. Raising her head, she looked at the conversation window that was no longer being updated, and said with a smile, "You're finally willing to speak up? Aren't I doing all this for you?" He replied cheekily. "I'm afraid that the young maiden might not be able to think things through for a moment. Ha, for you, I've really broken my heart." Zhu Yao's expression darkened. Rolling her eyes, she said, "Stop acting cheekily. Aren't all of this your fault? In the end, I still don't know what you look like yet. Young maiden, you wish to see me?" His voice rose. Zhu Yao was stunned for a moment. Can I? If you want to see me, just say it. I've long known that young maiden has been coveting my beauty." "Coveting your sister? All right then. Since you've made such a sincere request, what's the harm in letting you see me? You're serious?" Zhu Yao was stunned. That QQ conversation window, which had never been updated, however, flashed and instantly disappeared. A ball of shadow suddenly appeared in the air. It looked round and plump, and just as Zhu Yao was wondering if the other party was a fatty, that figure became clearer. It revealed a stomach that was as white as snow, and its back was as black as ink. Its limbs were so short that they could not be seen, its mouth was protruding yellow, and there was even a huge red scarf around its neck. QQ penguin. Zhu Yao, that why the hell is it a penguin, hey? Just how much do you love Tencent? Young maiden, how is it? That penguin blinked at her, and said with a complacent look, "Do I look very refreshing?" "Refreshing your sister? How do you think it's refreshing? Why did you turn into such a ghastly appearance?" I just feel that this looks more intimate." It scratched the penguin's head with a shy look. "How is this intimate? This looks more like seeing a ghost, alright? Don't you have the urge to top up Q coins for me? Scram. You don't like it?" It held onto its head and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, it took out a red bow tie from nowhere and stuck it on its head. "How about this? After turning into a female version, do you want to top up Q coins?" Even its voice had automatically changed to a female voice. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched, and the veins on her hands popped out. She tightly clenched her fists, took a few deep breaths, and then gritted her teeth and waved at it. "Come here." The penguin clumsily walked towards her. "Young maiden, Q coins." Before it could even finish, Zhu Yao had already raised her fist and smashed it on its plump body. She punched wherever it was obvious, using all the strength in her body, one punch after another. Young maiden, wait a minute, violence isn't right." In an instant, the entire space was filled with a certain someone's screams. Only when Zhu Yao was so tired that she no longer had the strength to swing her fist, Did she finally stop? Realm Spirit had already completely swollen into a round black and white ball from the beating. Young maiden. It trembled as it raised its little wings. What happened to the promised friendship? It felt that its body and mind had been hurt. Zhu Yao tossed her head. It's refreshing now. Realm Spirit. The penguin's head tilted, and it instantly lost all signs of life. Enough, stop pretending to be dead. Hurry and send me back. Zhu Yao kicked the penguin that was still lying on the ground. If it was so easily injured, it wouldn't be a realm spirit. As expected, in the next moment, it leaped up, and the wounds on its body had completely disappeared as well. With a fawning look, it said, "Dear, are you satisfied with the method of death earlier? If you feel that it's not enough, you can do it again. This spirit will provide various methods of death out of friendship. You can choose to stab me to death with a sword, smash me to death with a rock, or kick me to death. The quality is guaranteed, and there's no deceit. If you pre-order now, you'll even receive a great rebirth gift pack. Just how much the hell do you want to die? Scram. Don't be so heartless, dear. If you buy a good review now, you'll get cash back, you know? 3. Great service, wise choice. Don't miss it. 2. How about a dozen young maidens? If you pre-order now, you'll receive a holiday. 1. Have a safe journey. It waved its little handkerchief. A loading bar flashed in front of Zhu Yao's eyes, and she instantly disappeared from the dusky world. That gigantic penguin stood on the spot for a long time. A moment later, it shook like a scene from a movie and then disappeared. Rows of red words appeared in the air, as though data was being refreshed, faintly discernible. Target has once again experienced a major emotional problem. Do you wish to take emergency remedial measures? Operation cancelled. Continuing insertion of target. Activating passive emergency mode. Main body restoration progress, 80. Dungeon restoration progress, 10. Spread effect reduction degree, 150. Target correct. Setting target's priority. When Zhu Yao once again opened her eyes, what she saw was a peerless face filled with smiles. The gentleness in his eyes seemed to have materialized. Xiaobai. She was startled. After taking a closer look, she changed her words. Yuying, why are you here? Big Sis Yao. He pulled her hand. You're finally awake. I couldn't find you when I woke up, and when I finally found you, you didn't wake up. Zhu Yao was startled. Only then did she recall that she seemed to have planted Yuying at the back of the courtyard, and then forgot about it. Heavens, how long has it been? It couldn't have gone bad, right? She hurriedly grabbed it and took a closer look. Fortunately, it looked rather normal. Yuying, I'm sorry Just as she was about to explain, suddenly, an unknown black object charged into her embrace. Mistress. She simply felt her chest sinking, and the pain made her feel like puking blood. Out of reflex, she slapped it out. The hell? It wasn't big in the first place. Was there a need to harm her like this? She forcefully rubbed it. Fortunately, it wasn't flattened. Mistress. The black ball which was slapped away crawled back. Its 2 front paws tightly gripped onto the corner of her clothes, and it cried with snot and tears. This beastie has finally found you. Whoa. How can you abandon your cute beastie? I'm your beast in life, and I'm your dead beast in death. Sesame. Zhu Yao picked up that black ball. Why was it here as well? Why did you turn so small? Sesame was startled for a moment. Suddenly, as though her words struck a sore spot, it began to cry even louder. I had no choice but to turn small because I was injured. Injured? Why couldn't she tell? In order to find Mistress, we forcefully passed through the abyss of eternity, causing our cultivation to regress. It looked at her with a wronged expression. Mistress, Sesame is so pitiful. Aren't you still a 10th rank beast? Did he think she was blind? How did her cultivation regress? That's because of Lord Bai Yuan, which allowed me to recover. Then you're fine. Zhu Yao casually tossed it aside, and then snatched back the corner of her clothes from Sesame's paws. She turned to look at the person beside her. Yuying, come closer. Chapter 260. Yu-ing, however, held onto her hand. Big sis, will you still abandon Yu-ing? Zhu Yao's heart clenched. Sighing, she reached out to stroke his head. I'm sorry, I won't. He raised the corner of his lips, smiling with a satisfied look. As long as Big Sis is here, Yu-ing will be fine. Mistress, I have something to do. Sesame crawled back, opened up its two front paws and stood up. This beastie's body and mind are both hurt. I'm seeking comfort and a hug. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. Scram. Are you a child? Only children would seek hugs, all right? You're awake? The door suddenly creaked open, and a figure dressed in snow-white clothes appeared in front of the bed. Zhu Yao felt warmth in her heart, as the grievances in her heart endlessly poured out. Master, this disciple's body and mind are both hurt. I'm seeking a hug. Sesame. Yu-ing. Yu Yan's hand that was about to check her pulse paused. His ice-cold eyes scanned her from head to toe, and as though his towering rage was about to explode, he said with emphasis on every single word, why did you take the initiative to guide resentment into your body? This wasn't the right rhythm to denounce her. What happened to the promised reunion after parting, crying on each other's shoulders, and the finale? For the first time in his life, Yu Yan felt the anger in his heart was so strong that he wanted to beat someone up. He turned to look at the two hindrances at the side. Sesame. Mistress, I suddenly recalled that Lord Bai Yuan has something to tell me. I'll be leaving first. Yu-ing. Big Sis Yao, I'll come see you in a while. The two of them disappeared in an instant. The hell? No sense of brotherhood. Master. Zhu Yao's voice softened, and she even faintly sounded like she was about to cry. She decided to save herself, and raised her hands again. Copying Sesame's actions earlier, she looked at him pitifully, looked at him. A certain person's rage gradually dissipated under her focused gaze. His face that was as cold as 1,000-year-old ice earlier, instantly cracked. In the end he sighed, reached out his hand, and pulled her into his embrace. Only then did his chaotic emotions settle down. Zhu Yao hugged him tightly, until her nose was filled with the cold scent from his body. She rubbed against him hard, and the depths of her heart began to warm. Master, I missed you. He stared blankly for a moment before stroking her hair, and replying softly, yeah, that's it. Zhu Yao raised her head, and looked at his emotionless face a little discontentedly. Turning around, she circled her hands around his neck, and leaned in to kiss him. Yu Yan was startled. He did not resist, nor did he reply. She simply kissed him to her heart's content, kissing him back for all the time they had been apart. Only then did a hint of a different color surface on his 10,000-year-old icy face. Hugging onto her body that was pressing closer and closer, he said with a stern look, Yu Yao. Master, he said sternly, you just woke up. Ah, he said seriously, my body has just recovered. And then? You even fainted the last time, he said patiently. What? What faint? Now is not the time for dual cultivation. Could it be that he thought, don't do such risky things again. So eating meat is a risky thing to do? No, wait, she only kissed him once, she never thought of rolling in bed. Master, may I ask where did your imagination run off to? Hurry and come back, hey, return my pure and kind master to me. According to reliable sources, Zhu Yao was unconscious for an entire month before she woke up. And the resentment she drew out from Little Wimp's body suddenly disappeared on its own. Yu-ing and Sesame came to spiritual realm when she was unconscious. Sesame had a contract with her, so it wasn't strange for it to find her location. However, Yu-ing had a way to directly travel from the mortal realm to spiritual realm, which gave her a fright. However, recalling how he was able to go to the divine realm back then, it wasn't surprising for him to be able to come to spiritual realm now. Big Sis Zhu Yao, you're simply too reckless, Wang Xiuji said with a fearful look. How can you draw resentment onto yourself? Isn't this to gain a deeper understanding of resentment? Didn't I resolve it already? She patted on his head. Although that's the case, he frowned. But if there's a mishap, you don't even know that after Ancestral Grandmaster wakes up, he had almost torn Master apart. Actually, She knew that her companion Zmo had been slapped into the wall by a certain someone. He must have taken a long time to dig himself out. Now, when the old man saw her, he looked as though he had seen a ghost, running even faster than a rabbit. No sense of loyalty, at the very least. I saved your daughter's past life. Big sis Zhu Yao, what plans do you have after this? Wang Xiuji asked. I don't know. She shook her head. She had already found a way to resolve resentment. The realm spirit did not send her to another mission location, but directly sent her back. It couldn't possibly be asking her to resolve the remaining resentment as well, right? Thinking about the resentment in the river of forgetfulness, she probably wouldn't be able to resolve it all even after several lifetimes. It's rare for me to have some free time. Perhaps I should first follow Master back to the divine realm for a stroll. The corner of Wang Xiuji's lips twitched. He spoke as though the divine realm was your backyard. Master cannot stay in the lower realm for too long. It's best if you head up as soon as possible. Her master forcefully descending to the lower realm was going against the heavenly laws in the first place. That was why he would constantly turn into a child and fall into a coma earlier. Though she had the pearl gifted by the river of forgetfulness, she was still worried. Who knew if that thing had a maintenance period? What if it suddenly lost its effect? Grand Ancestral Master has a divine body in the first place. It should be very easy for him to ascend to the higher realm. Wang Xiuji suggested. As long as we speak to Lord Bai Yuan and open the world crossing door, the ascension lightning tribulation will naturally descend. Zhu Yao chuckled. It would be great if Master is willing to ascend to the higher realm. If he was at ease to let her stay in the lower realm alone, he wouldn't have already gone up, and then come back down. This time, no matter what, he would definitely bring her up. Letting out a long sigh, he patted on Little Wimp's shoulder, and said with a heavy tone, "Ha, Little Wimp, this is the trouble of having a partner. A single person like you wouldn't understand." The corner of Wang Xiuji's lips twitched. Why did she feel as though she was being mocked? And what kind of mystic artifact was the partner? Was it that amazing? What I can do now is to hurriedly cultivate, work hard together, and return home as husband and wife. Zhu Yao once again sighed. Let's not talk anymore, Little Wimp. I'm going to cultivate now. Don't miss me. I will live in your hearts. Just how much did he dislike cultivation? Oh right. Help me tell you, Ing, that child. Forget about Sesame. Don't worry about him being gay with Bai Yuan. All right. Wang Xiuji nodded. Suddenly, as though he had recalled something, he anxiously called out to her. Big sis Zhu Yao. What? Yuing He hesitated for a moment, and then said a moment later. Is he really Big sis Zhu Yao's acknowledged little brother? I keep feeling that he's a little. I have a special feeling towards him, as though. What? Zhu Yao was startled. Like a gust of wind, she flew back, grabbed onto Little Wimp's shoulders, and heavily shook him a few times. You can't be serious, right, Little Wimp? You can't have fallen for my Yuing, right? Please don't. He's still a child. The corner of Wang Xiuji's lips twitched. Why didn't he feel that Zhu Yao was so abnormal in the past? Big sis Zhu Yao, I'm a man as well. Men are the scary ones. Men are the dangerous ones. Zhu Yao hysterically shook him a few more times. Although you can't differentiate the relationship between a sister and a brother, at the very least, you have to differentiate the relationship between a man and a woman. I definitely won't agree to you guys being gay. What did he mean by being gay? I don't like him. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure. Oh, then I'm at ease. Zhu Yao heaved a sigh of relief. Wang Xiuji felt his liver aching. What I mean is, forget it. Big sis Zhu Yao, go into closed-door training. Oh. Zhu Yao suspiciously swept him a glance, and then walked away with a worried look. As a good and qualified elder sister, she did not forget to repeatedly inform him. Little Wimp, out of all the girls in the world, don't give up on treatment. Being gay doesn't conform to the basic principles of human reproduction and development. Looking forward, you will realize that the CP formed by BG is the most beautiful. Little Wimp, if you turn gay, I won't have the face to face my parents. Big sis Zhu Yao. He flipped out. I'm leaving. Zhu Yao was deeply depressed. Wang Xiuji's words had frightened her to the point that her heart was pounding. The two little brothers that she brought up with her own hands actually wanted to be in love with each other. There must be a problem with her education method. She felt that there was a need to carefully analyze the two of them, and it would be best if she could nip this problem in its bud. She had even prepared a huge pile of information, and was planning to analyze and verify it from multiple angles. She discussed the importance of a male and female CP, society's view towards non-heterosexuals, the history of mankind's development, the 100 reasons why little brothers should not be gay, and so on. And she even thought that if they were determined not to listen, she could start from Ying, who was the most obedient, so that he would not easily listen to little Wimp. Amen, this was a grand plan. Just thinking about it made her a little excited. Unfortunately, before she could even execute her plan, it died in her womb. A certain outstanding representative of the laissez-faire type, Sovereign Yu Yan, suddenly came to a realization. The reason why his disciple dared to court death in such a manner was inseparably related to his amiable education method. Amen, he's too amiable. Strict to cultivate one's body, loose to nurture one's worries. He had to be strict. Hence, Zhu Yao was strictly watched over, and she was watched over to the point of death. Even when she was in closed-door meditation, a certain master was personally watching her from the side. The moment she was distracted, a certain person would begin to release cold air in dissatisfaction, until she realized her own mistake. Ooh, master is so scary. Regarding this, a certain master had made a long-term plan as well. His goal was to form his Azoth core within 5 years, his nascent soul within 20 years, and his demigod within 100 years. After a few more years, he would be able to take in a disciple who had become a deity. This way, he could prevent her from trying to court death at any time. Thinking about it, it was rather simple. No, master. Zhu Yao hugged onto a certain person's waist and cried out loudly. This concubine can't do it. No need to worry. Yu Yan habitually reached out his hand to ruffle his disciple's hair, and said with a sunken voice, no matter what, master will accompany you. She's even more worried now, all right? Why don't you ascend first, master? Yu Yan's expression darkened. He coldly looked at her, and the words he spoke seemed as though they were about to freeze. Back then, I ascended first. In the blink of an eye, you were already courting death. I was wrong. His disciple's reputation value was 0. That was too tragic. Zhu Yao had no choice but to close her eyes, meditate and recuperate her spiritual energy. In her heart, she wished that she could drag Realm Spirit out and give him another beating. Since he knew how to repair his avatar, why didn't he raise his cultivation a little? Ting. Suddenly, a familiar notification sound rang in her mind. Zhu Yao was shocked. Opening her eyes, a familiar conversation window suddenly appeared in front of her, and large words that looked like advertisements appeared in front of her. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched, as she weakly glanced at a certain master who was tailing her. Master. Amen. I might not even need 100 years. I will be able to become a demigod now. The dialogue box wrote, Dearest, are you still troubled by your mediocrity? Was he still ashamed because his cultivation was low? Stack Novice Gift Pack, resolving your worries and allowing you to enjoy the thrill of instant leveling up. Whether it was from Chi refinement to soul formation, or from Earth Immortal to Exalted Immortal, they only needed one click to achieve their elite dream. The entire process was painless, and he would be promoted immediately. He would be guaranteed entry to the celestial world, and he would enjoy VIP treatment throughout. From a loser to a goddess, it was no longer a dream, not a dream. Come on, pick up the phone now. Apui, raise your little paw and hit confirm. Stack Beginner's Gift Pack, you made a wise choice. Realm Spirit has the final right to interpret this gift pack. If there's a similarity, then you're blind. Please choose Package A, Chi Refinement to Soul Formation, with a bonus special effect, 9 Heavenly Thunder, Meng Meng. Set B, Earth Level Deity, Supreme Deity, comes with special effect, 9 Revolutions Lightning Tribulation is awesome. Package C, Exalted Immortal Ascension to Godhood comes with a bonus special effect, Thunder, 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 Thunder Charcoal. Package D. Random to Random comes with a special effect. I haven't thought about it yet. Let's just leave it at random. P.S. Once selected, it will be bound for life, no refunds. Zhu Yao. That's that clash? If you read it out loud, it's clearly a scam, right? Realm Spirit, be honest. How much did you pay for a kilogram of your moral integrity? She let out a long sigh. Though the conversation window was a little despicable, she had to admit that it came at the right time. Now that her resentment was settled, Realm Spirit probably wanted her to change maps to fight monsters as well. After hesitating for a moment, she still chose that option. In the next moment, Yu Yan saw his stupid disciple, who clearly had heaven-defying luck, yet always courting death, had her cultivation level rapidly changing in a strange manner. First, it dropped from foundation to essence, then from essence back to foundation. Then it quickly went to Azoth, nascent soul, demigod, earth deity, and finally, it was suppressed back to demigod paragon. Such a strange increase in cultivation level. Yet there wasn't even the slightest bit of abnormal spiritual energy in the surroundings, let alone the descent of tribulation lightning. A certain master expressed that he would get used to this sort of thing after seeing it for a while. Master, this concubine has done it. Zhu Yao grabbed onto her master's hand and said with sincerity. Yu Yan turned his hand and held onto his stupid disciple's wrist. After checking her pulse for a moment, he then stretched out his finger and tapped on her forehead. He sent his divine sense into her, and after confirming that there were no abnormalities, he heaved a sigh of relief. Tomorrow we will return to the higher realm. Yes, my king. Inform Bai Yuan. No problem, my king. Inform the others as well. Understood, my king. My king. Amen. Are there any rewards for completing the mission ahead of time? Begging for rewards, begging for praise, begging for a little red flower. Yu Yan was silent for a moment. Suddenly, he lowered his head and pressed his disciple's lips, which were chattering endlessly. A long while later, my king. Amen. Is it an advance payment for rewards? 1,000 mountains and 10,000 rivers is always a favor. Can I have another one? Chapter 261. The second day. When Zhu Yao waved at Wang Xuji, who was flying over, he lost his balance and almost fell off his sword. Big sis Zhu Yao. You're your cultivation. His eyes must be playing tricks on him. She was clearly still at the foundation stage a few days ago. How did she suddenly become a demigod paragon? Ha, little wimp. Life is just so unpredictable. She patted on his shoulders. Wang Xuji had a conflicted look, and only after a while did he sigh. Then Big Sis Zhu Yao, when do you plan on ascending to the higher realm? Tomorrow. I'm afraid that a long night might bring trouble, so I'm telling you first. Zhu Yao looked around. Oh right, have you seen Bai Yuan? It had been a few days since she last saw that beastie. In the past he would still run to her window and offer her some flowers, but these few days he had completely disappeared. I don't know either. Sovereign Bai Yuan's whereabouts have always been erratic. Wang Xuji pondered for a moment. However, recently, Sesame has been with him. Since when did Sesame become so friendly with other beasties? Just as she was about to look for Sesame, Yuing walked over. Big Sis Yao, you're out of closed-door training. Yuing, you came at the right time. Zhu Yao waved at him and told him about her ascension tomorrow. Yu Ying's expression instantly darkened. He looked straight into her eyes and clenched his fists, as though he was suppressing something. After a long while he said, Big Sis Yao, are you going to throw Yuing away again? Zhu Yao was startled. She reached out her hand to stroke his head. What nonsense are you saying? I'm just ascending. Can't you go to the divine realm as well? Divine realm? He suddenly raised his head and smiled. However, his smile did not reach his eyes. Big Sis Yao, what if I say, I can't go to the divine realm? What did he mean? Zhu Yao did not understand for a moment. Wang Xuji, however, frowned. He suddenly took a step forward and changed the topic. Yuing, do you know where Sesame went? Ying did not reply. He simply looked at Zhu Yao like a stubborn child as he tugged onto the corner of her clothes, wanting an answer no matter what. Ying? Zhu Yao faintly felt that something was wrong with him, but she could not put her finger on it. She sighed and explained. Master can't stay in the lower realm for too long. He fainted before, so I have to hurry and return to the higher realm. Be good, I'll wait for you in the upper realm. He frowned, and threw a tantrum like a child. Big Sis Yao promised that she wouldn't abandon me again. If he wants to go back, he can go back by himself. Ying, stop messing around. Zhu Yao was a little furious. Pulling away his hand, she turned to look at little Wimp. Let's go look for Sesame first. Wang Xiuji nodded and flew up with her. Turning back to look at Ying, who was still standing at his original spot, he discovered that the other party was looking straight at him. His heart skipped a beat for no reason, and even his flying sword became a little unstable. Little Wimp. Zhu Yao held on to him. What are you doing? It's nothing. He smiled, and then hesitantly spoke up. Big Sis Zhu Yao, before you came to spiritual realm, did I see Ying somewhere? Why do you ask? There's something wrong with this nostalgic expression. She suddenly thought of something. You can't really have feelings for my Ying. Big Sis Zhu Yao. He instantly exploded. I didn't say anything. Wang Xiuji sighed. After pondering for a moment, he said, I simply feel like I have a very familiar feeling towards him. As though I've met him in my previous life. Little Wimp. Zhu Yao glanced at him and said, What fate, it's all a lie. Don't believe everything that books say. Finding a girl is the way of the king. Zhu Yao searched for an entire day, yet she was unable to find even the shadow of those two beasts. Zhu Yao gritted her teeth, and immediately used the contract to forcefully summon Sesame over. Initially, she had only planned on asking it about Bai Yuan's whereabouts, but in the end, the power of the contract instantly pulled the two beasties over. Bai Yuan was on top, while Sesame was below. The two beasties, one upside down and one upside down, fell down. This situation, it's a little ambiguous. No, Bai Yuan is a male beast. Two male beasts, what kind of shameful things did you two do? Mistress. The moment Sesame saw her, it crawled up with a whoosh, and hid behind her with lightning speed. With a wronged look, it said, Lord Bai Yuan is too much. He insisted on keeping that thing in my body. This beastie is about to explode from being stuffed. What did she hear? Just what indescribable things did you two do, hey? What? She grabbed onto its tail and roared. Then, is your chrysanthemum still there? Bai Yuan. Wang Xiuji. Sesame. Did Mistress say something immoral earlier? Why did it feel its chrysanthemum tightening? Bai Yuan shyly glanced at Zhu Yao, and then walked towards her. Its initially white beast was beginning to turn pink. This shy little gaze, this ambiguous reaction, there was definitely something going on. She hugged onto Sesame's beast head, and said with a heart filled with guilt, I'm sorry, Mistress did not protect your chrysanthemum well. Bai Yuan. Wang Xiuji. Sesame. Ao Bai Yuan suddenly hissed and roared at Sesame. Seeing Sesame retreating out of fear from Zhu Yao's embrace, it let out a woohoo sound, and spat out a pearl from its mouth. That pearl was at least the size of a fist, round and pure white. Its entire body was even emitting out a faint silver light, as though it could emit light. A warm and refreshing aura faintly seeped out from within, and it was extremely beautiful, if not for the fact that its saliva was still dripping on it. Inner core. Little Wimp stared at Bai Yuan with a shocked look. Lord you, meow. It used its head to push the pearl, and rolled towards her, looking as though it was hoping that she would pick it up. For me? Bai Yuan strongly nodded. You're crazy. Zhu Yao glared at it. Can an inner core be casually given to others? The inner core was the crystallization of its cultivation. It would die if it were to spit it out so casually, right? Ooh. Sesame took the opportunity to cry. Earlier, Lord Bai Yuan insisted that I bring its inner core and follow you to the higher realm. I wasn't willing, and he even bit me. So earlier, weren't you two fighting with the pixies? Hurry and keep it. Zhu Yao reached out her hand to stroke its beast head. It seemed like it had long known that she was going to ascend. I have no use for your inner core. Oyu, it shook its head. Sesame acted as the translator. Lord said, if you bring its inner core with you, it will be able to look for you to play at any time. Who wants to play with you? Demonic beasts will die if they don't have inner cores. Oyu, he said, it has a lot of these. You can play with them however you want. Ah. You must be joking. In the next moment, Bai Yuan let out a woo sound, and spat out a string of white pearls that looked exactly the same, piling up into a pile. The corner of Zhu Yao's lips twitched. She turned to look at Little Wimp. Are you sure? These are all its inner cores? Are you kidding me? Whose inner cores would grow into a pile? Do you think you're a pea shooter? Wang Xuji. That Bai Yuan wanted to gift her an inner core, and she rejected it in the beginning. However, she could not stand it as it rolled on the ground, crying out pitifully, without the slightest bit of dignity as a guardian beast. In the end, even Sesame could not stand it any longer, as it hugged onto her thigh. Mistress, just agree to it. Otherwise, I want to roll on the ground. Don't worry, Lord Bai Yuan isn't a normal beastie. Nothing will happen to him. I guarantee it with my chrysanthemum. Your chrysanthemum had long been thrown away along with your morals, all right? She casually picked one up, and when she brought it back for her master to appraise, that huge pile was indeed an inner core. Zhu Yao felt that she needed to cram on her common sense. In a blink of an eye, Bai Yuan was evidently a demonic beast raised by the River of Forgetfulness, and the River of Forgetfulness was acquainted with realm spirit, so it was very normal for it to have such an ability. Wait a minute. Bai Yuan, it couldn't be the source of the River of Forgetfulness, right? _ Why did the NPCs of this world have such random names? Her master told her to place Bai Yuan's inner core in her divine sense to nourish it. This way, Bai Yuan's spiritual energy would not be depleted. On the second day, she was already prepared to ascend. Bai Yuan arrived very early, and simply let out a cry. As though something had been removed from the sky, the layers began to recede. Zhu Yao and her master released the spiritual pressure of a demigod paragon. And in the sky that was split open, tribulation lightning bolts began to roll. 81 by 9, multiplied by 2, the 9 heavenly lightning bolts struck down. That's right, all of them landed on her. 81 by 2 plus 1, was about to strike down. Zhu Yao glared at the tribulation lightning bolt, which was evidently high from being struck. Hey, that's enough, hey. Do you even know how to count? That lightning bolt, with its little white tail, was extinguished with a bang. Then a golden pillar of light broke through the clouds. The light of guidance instantly struck onto the two of them. Zhu Yao felt her body lighten. And just as she was about to ascend, something tightened beside her. Big Sis Yao. Yuing suddenly reached out his hand to grab onto the corner of her robe, and looked at her with hazy eyes. You said before you won't abandon Yuing. Zhu Yao's heart ached, as she stroked his head. Be obedient, Sesame will accompany you. When you can ascend to the higher realm, it will naturally bring you to find me. He stiffened for a moment, yet his grip grew even tighter. Suddenly he smiled. It was not the warm and gentle smile he usually had, instead, it carried a hint of craziness. Big Sis Yao, you lied to me again. Why do you have to abandon me as well? Her heart clenched, as she suddenly had a bad premonition. She wanted to reach out her hand to pull him. Yuing. Big Sis, I have always wanted to ask you. Just what is Yuing to you? You said I'm your little brother, your kin. But you can risk your life for Yu Yan. And you can die for Wang Xuji. Why don't you ever turn around to look at me? Yuing, You said you didn't like Yuing killing people, so Yuing didn't kill people. You said Yuing should first learn how to be a human, so Yuing desperately trained in human practitioner mystic arts. But why, you still have to abandon me. Last time it was for Wang Xuji. This time, it's for Yu Yan. What will it be for next time? Has Yuing always been abandoned by you? No. Zhu Yao was a little flustered, as she stepped forward to hold onto his hand. This child was selfish, and liked to get himself into a dead end. She suddenly felt a little regretful that she did not spend more time to explain things to him. She clearly knew how sensitive of a child Ying was. Listen to me, I'm not abandoning you. I don't believe it. Ying smiled at her. And his smile was as though the entire world had lost its color. Big sis Yao, you always say that you will return, but you always abandon Ying. I don't want to believe in you anymore. I only believe in myself. His voice sank, and suddenly, the devilic aura on his body instantly exploded. The ground shook, sand and rocks flew, and the world turned dark. His face that was usually as gentle as jade was filled with hostility. Clear black markings were currently crawling on his face, and the cold aura around his body caused her to feel cold. He grabbed onto her hand and leaned closer. Big sis Yao, do you know why I can't go to the higher realm? Zhu Yao's heart sank. She had never seen Ying like this before. Yu Yao. Yu Yan flew over and grabbed onto his disciple. With a turn of his body, he had already retreated several meters away, and vigilantly looked at Ying, who was already surrounded by devilic aura. Little Wimp and ZMO had shocked expressions as well, as they looked at Ying dumbfoundedly. Big sis Zhu Yao, he's a devil? Ying, calm down a little. The depths of Zhu Yao's heart was in a mess. This selfish child actually went berserk just like that? Ying's smile grew even more unbridled. He coldly glanced at Yu Yan, and suddenly, he slowly walked towards them. With every step he took, the devilic aura on his body would grow heavier, and the surrounding flowers and trees would instantly wither. His smile instantly faded, and in a flash, he suddenly appeared behind Wang Shuji. With a single hand, he grabbed onto Wang Shuji's neck and lifted him up. Little Wimp instantly lost the strength to retaliate, and his entire body was enveloped by devilic aura. Big sis Yao, will you be able to see me after I kill these hindrances? Ying, stop. Zhu Yao's heart skipped a beat, and she wanted to fly over. However, she was held back by Yu Yan, who was behind her. She had no choice but to shout out loudly. Don't be rash, hurry and release Little Wimp. Release? He was startled for a moment, and then, as though he suddenly recalled something. Big sis Yao, have you ever wondered why I can't go to the divine realm? Zhu Yao was startled, as she did not understand why he would suddenly ask such a question. The divine realm is a place where mortals ascend. I'm a devil, so unless I open the world crossing door, I'm basically unable to reach the divine realm. I researched for a long time, before I finally found the method to open the world crossing door, and found Big Sis. However, I realized a problem. I can't open the world crossing door again, because my soul isn't complete. He said these words as though he was chatting idly, but the devilic aura on his body grew thicker, as though it was about to materialize. In the past, I didn't know why this was the case, but now I know. Little sister. Zhu Yao's heart trembled, as she fiercely widened her eyes. Xiaobai. Not yet. After I kill him, my missing soul will return to my body. Big sis Yao, didn't you wish for me to hurry and reunite with you in the higher realm? He suddenly said with a stern look. It's just that my soul isn't complete, and he's the part of my missing soul. After killing him, I can open the world crossing door and find Big Sis. Shuji was Yu Ying's missing soul? Zhu Yao was startled, as she suddenly recalled the scene realm spirit showed her. When Xiaobai came out of the god realm, the two lumps of light that split into two. Ying, can we talk things out? There's nothing that can't be discussed clearly. Release Little Wimp first. Big Sis will promise you. Let's not go to the higher realm first. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.